Chapter 2645. It's me. It's just me before I went to the Eternal Supreme World. The Horn Clan's Paragon didn't look much different from the other Horn Clan members, but he gave off a very different feeling. Zhao Hui, Zhao Kong, and the others, not to mention their strength, their aura was very weak. The Horn Clan's Paragon gave off a peerless aura. Although he didn't show off, he had an invincible aura just by standing there. Paragon, do you have something to say to Night Sorrow by leaving this phantom behind? Night Sorrow looked at the Horn Clan's Paragon. The other party's face was very blurry, but his aura was peerless. He was in awe of the Horn Clan's Paragon and Ancestor Phoenix, who fought in the Eternal Supreme World for the safety of the God Realm. Because without these predecessors, the God Realm and the Nine Regions world might have been ruled by other regions long ago. There are some words, but not a lot. I left this phantom behind to see you in advance. The Horn Clan's Paragon said in a vicissitude voice, and continued, You are more outstanding than I imagined. Persevere on your own path. Lord Paragon, Night Sorrow has found his own path, and will cultivate the power of merit to the end. Night Sorrow nodded. The Horn Clan's Paragon's words made him even more determined to cultivate the power of merit. After I disappear, there will be 3 types of absolute arts left on this wall. As for how many you can comprehend, it will depend on your own comprehension. After the Horn Clan's Paragon said this, he said somewhat embarrassedly, The other thing is the recent calamity of the Horn Clan. Lord Paragon, don't worry. I will be responsible for the safety of the Horn Clan when you are fighting in the Eternal Supreme World. In fact, even if the Horn Clan's Paragon didn't appear, Night Sorrow would still fool the Horn Clan's safety. Sigh. This time, the calamity of the Horn Clan will probably exceed your imagination. The Horn Clan's Paragon sighed. He felt a sense of helplessness. The foundation he left behind when he left back then had long been used up. Once the Horn Clan was exposed, they would have no way to protect themselves. Night Sorrow will do his best. Night Sorrow solemnly promised. Although he can't completely guarantee the safety of the Horn people, he can guarantee that he will try his best to fool this group. With your words, I'm relieved. Back then, I predicted that you would come here to search for Origin Gold Essence, so I prepared some for you. Just as the voice of the Horn Clan's Supreme Being fell, a stone wall collapsed. Then, a small square box emitting golden light floated out from within. It's actually Origin Essence. Night Sorrow took the box and sensed a trace of aura coming from the box. He was sure that this was an item born from the Origin. Origin Essence Gold is a necessary material to forge Dominator-level divine artifacts. You will definitely be able to use them in the future. Take good care of them. After the Horn Clan's Supreme Martial Artist explained the matter of the Origin Essence Gold, he continued, Compared to what you have obtained, you will definitely bear more. I hope that you will not give up on our clan so easily. Don't worry. Night Sorrow has always been a man of his word. He said that he would do his best to protect the Horn people. Night Sorrow promised again. At this time, the phantom of the Horn Clan's Supreme Being had clearly dimmed. He finally reminded, In this ancient world, don't be enemies with the Golden Crow clan. They are invincible. Yes. Lord Supreme Martial Artist, Night Sorrow will remember these words. Do you have anything else to say? Seeing the phantom of the Horn Clan's Supreme Being getting weaker and weaker, Night Sorrow quickly asked. In this world, it's easy to enter but hard to leave. Take care of yourself. The Horn Clan's Supreme Being sighed. Easy to enter but hard to leave? Ordinary ancient worlds can be entered and exited as long as one is in the modern world. Hearing the other party's reminder, Night Sorrow thought doubtfully. Night Sorrow merit God. Not good. The existence of the Horn People tribe has been exposed. Some God Realm cultivators have already discovered this place. Several God Lords in the tribe are fighting together. After the phantom of the Horn Clan's Supreme Being disappeared, Night Sorrow didn't have time to sigh at the contents of the stone wall before Zhao Hui came in to inform him. It turned out that not long after Night Sorrow and Murong Tsai appeared, several God Realm cultivators also appeared here. After discovering the existence of the Horn People and the entire tribe had so many people, how could they remain calm? They immediately took action and captured several members of the Horn People. The rest of the Horn People naturally resisted with all their strength, alarming the others. However, these God Realm cultivators were quite strong. The Horn People's God Lords were no match for them at all. Helplessly, Zhao Hui could only come in and invite Night Sorrow. I didn't expect Lord Supreme Martial Artist's prophecy to come so quickly. Night Sorrow sighed and looked at Zhao Hui. Where is the battle? Quickly bring me there. Night Sorrow Merit God. Please follow me. This is urgent. I hope you can help our tribe to escape. If our Horn people is controlled by them, the consequences will be unimaginable. I'm afraid we will all become lowly slaves. Zhao Hui's face had a trace of pleading. The heavens had given them a unique talent, but it was also coveted by other races. Don't worry, I will do my best to help your Horn people escape. While speaking, Night Sorrow asked Zhao Hui to speed up. Then, he simply put him into a spatial artifact and brought him along. Not long after, Night Sorrow left the cave and came to the Horn people tribe. At this moment, 5 God Realm cultivators were fighting with the Horn people. Although these 5 were God Realm cultivators, their strength was definitely stronger than the Horn people's God Lords. During the battle, there was a hint of ridicule. Among them, the other male cultivators used all kinds of dirty words when fighting with Murong Tsai. Bastard! Seeing this male cultivator's performance, Night Sorrow immediately rebuked him. He said, "Who are you? And who are you?" The male cultivator who had just ridiculed Murong Tsai asked disdainfully. Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow did not mention the name of Tianyun's school, as he did not want his sect to be implicated. Because this time, those who had entered the ancient world were either from the ruling families or the God Realm cultivators of the major races. Night Sorrow, the 3rd on the God Realm ranking? Very well, I, Luo Changtian, would like to learn from you. Luo Changtian's face had a hint of mockery. In reality, he did not take Night Sorrow seriously at all. In his opinion, his strength was completely above the God Realm ranking. Even Yun Zhe, who was 1st on the God Realm ranking, was no match for him. Alright. Then as you wish. Tsai, go help the others. Night Sorrow opened the sea serpent eye and observed. Among the 5 God Realm cultivators, Luo Changtian was the strongest. He was prepared to attack him first. At this time, Murong Tsai reminded, he is Luo Changtian from the All-Heaven ruling residence that I told you about before. He is a true genius among the God Realm cultivators. You have to be careful. No worries. Even if I can't beat him now, I still have a backup plan. Chapter 2646. Luo Changtian was a powerful high god trained by the All-Heaven Sovereign Manor. He was much stronger than Wu Li, who Night Sorrow had fought before. In terms of strength alone, the mid-level high god Night Sorrow was at a disadvantage. Looks like I'll have to use my trump card. With Night Sorrow's participation, the Horn race was immediately freed from the passive situation. Both sides were evenly matched, so he wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he focused on sensing the strength of the top high gods in the god world. You're pretty strong. You're stronger than I thought, but you're nothing in front of me. I'm done playing with you. I don't want other experts to appear and steal my opportunity. The entire Horn race will become my slave. Luo Changtian let out an unbridled laugh as he unleashed an ultimate technique. Thousand Snake Heart Killing Palm. The power of this palm strike was extremely overbearing and vaguely carried a trace of viciousness. It gave people an extremely dangerous feeling. Facing this palm strike was like facing the tongue of a venomous snake. This palm is no small matter. Looks like I'll have to use my trump card too. Facing Luo Changtian's palm, Night Sorrow activated the 33 Heavens Battle Secret technique, instantly increasing his strength. Then, he used the forbidden reincarnation spear that he had just researched. The moment Night Sorrow used the Samsara halberd and used the forbidden reincarnation spear, Luo Changtian was stunned. The spear gave him too much of a shock. The explosive power of the tip of the spear especially made him tremble. What's going on? Luo Changtian, who thought he could kill Night Sorrow with a single palm, chose to retreat. He didn't dare to face the Samsara halberd that had been strengthened by the Sovereign Stone. However, as he retreated, he summoned a 7-section whip. He was forced to use a divine weapon. Retreat? Can you retreat? Divine Origin Dragon Lock Formation. Bind him. Seeing that Luo Changtian had chosen to retreat, Night Sorrow immediately roared and unleashed the Divine Origin Dragon Lock spell, trapping Luo Changtian, who had summoned the 7-section whip, in a sealed space. Suddenly trapped in a sealed space, Luo Changtian, who had never seen such a way of fighting, was stunned for a moment. He didn't break out of the formation quickly. Therefore, Night Sorrow's taboo reincarnation spear forcefully blasted into the sealed space. Although Luo Changtian was a super genius nurtured by the All-Heaven Ruler's manner, he had countless treasures, be it defensive Dharma artifacts or offensive Dharma artifacts. They were the best among the high gods. However, how could it resist the heavenly Samsara halberd that had been strengthened by the ruler's stone? It immediately shattered its divine domain and defensive magic robe. His entire body was blasted into a bloody mess, looking very miserable. The forbidden reincarnation spear is indeed powerful. Seeing Luo Changtian's miserable state, Night Sorrow, who was extremely satisfied with the spear technique he had just researched, nodded his head. At the same time, the forbidden reincarnation spear didn't stop there. It continued to attack Luo Changtian. Good. Very good. You have successfully angered me. Luo Changtian, who was being suppressed, was extremely frustrated. This was his first time out. Naturally, it was also his first time fighting someone outside the All-Heaven Ruler's manor. He didn't expect to be at a disadvantage immediately. So what if I angered you? If you don't take them away, I will kill all of you trash. Night Sorrow threatened furiously. Luo Changtian and the others didn't see the horn race as a fair race at all. They were extremely arrogant. I want to see how you will kill someone from the ruler's family. As he shouted, Luo Changtian opened up his divine domain again. He also took out a defensive magic robe of inferior quality and put it on. The long whip that was activated by Luo Changtian turned from its original white color to a blood-red color. It looked a little evil. Even Night Sorrow felt a sense of danger. Not simple. This long whip is not simple. Night Sorrow immediately became alert. He felt that the offensive power of the 7-section whip was very likely comparable to the heavenly Samsara halberd. You have a good eye. To tell you the truth, this is a divine weapon made from the Divine King's dragon bones and dragon tendons. Although it's not at the Divine King's level, its power is infinitely close. Luo Changtian's words carried a hint of arrogance. He roared crazily, 7 dragons god-slaying whip. Then, he whipped out 7 terrifying whip scars. These scars looked like rainbows at first glance, but the aura was extremely bloody. These dragon bones and dragon tendons seemed to be wailing, giving off an extremely cruel feeling. Extremely evil. It's not worth mentioning. I don't believe that your Divine King's materials can compare to ruler's materials. As the Merit High God, Night Sorrow hated this kind of evil aura. Facing Luo Changtian's 7 dragons god-slaying whip, he used the forbidden reincarnation spear again. Previously, Night Sorrow used 70% of his strength. This time he went all out. He wanted to shatter the 7-section whip in Luo Changtian's hand. You're really confident. Seeing that Night Sorrow chose to use the reincarnation heavenly halberd against his 7-section whip, Luo Changtian was shocked. Luo Changtian's face showed that he had never seen the world. Boom! The 7-section whip and the reincarnation heavenly halberd collided, instantly creating an earth-shattering sound. Although the 7-section whip didn't shatter after being hit by the reincarnation heavenly halberd, visible cracks could be seen on it. The reincarnation heavenly halberd that had been strengthened by the ruler's stone was simply too hard. Is this still a battle between high gods? The other people who were fighting unconsciously stopped and looked over when they heard this power. Seeing that Luo Changtian was at a disadvantage and that even his trump card, the 7 dragons god-slaying whip, had cracks on it, the people from the Luo Heaven Ruler's manor were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. This was because they knew that if Luo Changtian couldn't win with the 7 dragons god-slaying whip, today's matter would be difficult to resolve. Now, I'll give you all a chance. As long as you release all the captured members of the horn race, I won't pursue your actions today. At this time, Night Sorrow, who had already communicated with Jiao Kong, looked at Luo Changtian and said this. Although the two of them had just started fighting, he could see from Luo Changtian's shocked expression that the 7 dragons god-slaying whip was very likely his strongest move. If his strongest move was useless, then his other moves would be even more useless. Naive. You think you've got me, Luo Changtian, for sure? Luo Changtian sneered and took out a Divine King-level talisman. No matter how strong you are, can you be stronger than the Divine King? I have 10 of these talismans. If you don't want to be killed, Then get lost immediately and don't hinder me from capturing the horn race. Luo Changtian, I didn't want to kill you, but now you're asking for it. If you have the ability, then try using the talisman. Facing Luo Changtian's threat, Knight Sorrow scolded coldly. The Divine King-level talisman was too dangerous, and he couldn't help but want to kill. Chapter 2647. Ha ha ha. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I have a king-grade god talisman, and this ancient world is under my rule. What right do you have to challenge me? Luo Changtian said arrogantly. If Knight Sorrow had a king-grade god talisman, he might have some fear. However, he didn't. He didn't hide his arrogance at all. Use your king-grade god talisman if you dare. Knight Sorrow didn't take Luo Changtian's threat seriously. Although the king-grade god talisman was scary, he had a way to deal with it. As soon as he finished speaking, Yishan used the third move of the Green Rock Soul-rending roar to attack Luo Changtian's soul. You really dare to attack, you ignorant fool. Knight Sorrow's Green Rock Soul-splitting roar not only impacted Luo Changtian's soul, but the other four also felt like their souls were being torn apart. This enraged Luo Changtian. Originally, he thought that using the king-grade god talisman was very precious, and it was enough as a threat. However, Knight Sorrow didn't give him any face. Under such circumstances, Luo Changtian's face darkened as he roared. Since you want to die, then go to hell. I don't believe you can withstand a blow from the Divine King. At the same time, he activated the king-grade god talisman in his hand and prepared to throw it at Knight Sorrow. Seeing Luo Changtian activate the king-grade god talisman, Murong Kai-yi, Zhao Kong, Zhao Hui, and the others were all worried. They were afraid that Knight Sorrow would be killed by the Divine King in one blow. The few high gods who came with Luo Changtian had cruel smiles on their faces. In their opinion, the king-grade god talisman was something that high gods couldn't deal with. Dragon Locking Formation, rise! Just as Luo Changtian was about to use the king-grade god talisman, Knight Sorrow used the Divine Origin Dragon Locking Formation and the Virtuous Dragon Locking Formation. The two types of energy formed the Dragon Locking Formation and locked Luo Changtian and the king-grade god talisman in a small sealed space. It was obvious that Luo Changtian couldn't break the double Dragon Lock array with his own strength. He could use the king-grade god talisman to destroy it, but the king-grade god talisman was too powerful. It would definitely backfire on him. At that moment, Luo Changtian was stunned. He felt a strong sense of danger. This king-level divine talisman was originally his trump card, but at this moment, it had become a life-threatening talisman. What should we do? What should I do? Luo Changtian, who was in a complete panic, had already activated the king-grade talisman. There was no way to stop him. Quick! Let's attack together and help senior brother Changtian break the formation. Seeing how awkward Luo Changtian was, the other four immediately wanted to help him break the formation. However, at this time, not only did Murong Kai-yi, Zhao Kong, and the others take action to stop them, even Knight Sorrow joined the battle against them. With the addition of Knight Sorrow, the situation quickly became one-sided. These four powerful high gods, who could even reach the top 3 of the divine ranking, were killed in a moment. At the same time, the king-grade god talisman in the Dragon Lock array completely exploded. Not only did it destroy the Virtuous Dragon Lock array and the Divine Origin Dragon Lock array, but it also severely injured Luo Changtian. Heaven's wrongs can be forgiven, but the wrongs you bring upon yourself are the hardest to bear. Looking at the dying Luo Changtian, Yishang coldly said with disdain. If Luo Changtian didn't want to use such underhanded methods and relied on his strength to fight, he would still have a chance. But now, this ending was completely self-inflicted. The king-grade god talisman is not bad. Looks like we have something to rely on for this trip to the ancient world. After Knight Sorrow restrained Luo Changtian, he didn't immediately kill him. This was because he knew that the ancient world was in the territory ruled by all heaven. If he wanted to leave in the future, Luo Changtian would be of great help. After putting Luo Changtian into the spatial artifact, Knight Sorrow took a look and found that most of his important items were destroyed. Only the other 9 king-grade god talismans were almost intact. He kept 5 of them, gave 2 to Murong Kai-yi, and gave 1 each to Zhao Kong and Zhao Hui. Then, he looked at Zhao Kong and said, Patriarch Zhao Kong, I think your habitat has been exposed. Why don't you all enter my spatial artifact? Yes. For the safety of the entire clan, this is the best choice. Zhao Kong sighed and summoned all of his clansmen into Night Sorrow's spatial artifact. Lord Sovereign left some things for us. I need to comprehend them before leaving. Night Sorrow explained. After getting Zhao Kong's approval, he immediately returned to the stone wall in the cave and started to comprehend the 3 stone carvings left behind by the Horned Sovereign. They were 3 types of lost skills. After a quick check, Night Sorrow found that these 3 lost skills belonged to the High God grade, Divine Monarch grade, and Divine King grade. The deity level technique was called the Hand of Cleaving Heaven and Earth, which sounded a little old-fashioned. Night Sorrow used a month to completely comprehend it. After using it, Night Sorrow found that this lost skill was even stronger than the Forbidden Reincarnation Spear he used with the Reincarnation Heavenly Halberd. Why is this move stronger than the Forbidden Reincarnation Spear? After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow didn't get an answer. He didn't think about it anymore and seriously studied the other 2 moves. Night Sorrow also didn't take long to completely comprehend the Divine Monarch grade and Divine King grade lost skills. However, with his current realm, he couldn't use them at all. The things left behind by the Sovereign are indeed different. After memorizing all 3 moves, Night Sorrow walked out of the cave with satisfaction. Seeing Night Sorrow appear, Murong Kai-e, who was guarding outside the cave, smiled and asked, "Seems like the harvest is not bad?" "Yes, it's not bad. I learned a very powerful lost skill." Night Sorrow told the truth. Then, he taught the Hand of Splitting Heaven and Earth to the Horn clan. This was the lost skill left behind by the Horn Sovereign. He couldn't keep it for himself. However, the move that Night Sorrow thought was easy to learn stumped everyone in the Horn clan. They studied it in the Clear Sky Pagoda for a long time but still couldn't learn it. "Come and try. See if you can learn it. This move is very powerful. If you can learn it, it will be very helpful for your trip to the ancient world." Night Sorrow passed the lost skill to Murong Kai-e after getting the consent of the Horn clan's patriarch Zhao Kong. However, Murong Kai-e, who had a good comprehension ability, couldn't learn it either. Murong Kai-e, who couldn't learn it, said doubtfully, "This move seems simple, but I can't understand some of its essence. Is there some kind of restriction in learning this move?" "This move is called Hand of Splitting Heaven and Earth. I think it can only be learned by the creator of Splitting Heaven and Earth." Night Sorrow guessed. "Creator of Splitting Heaven and Earth? What's that?" Murong Kai-e asked confusedly. The first cultivator to ascend to the divine world from a world in the lower realms is called the creator of Splitting Heaven and Earth. I was the first one to ascend from my world. Night Sorrow explained. He didn't hide this matter. There were many people who had ascended from the lower realms in the divine world. This wasn't a taboo. It seems that your foundation is deep. It's related to the accumulation of the lower realms. When Murong Kai-e heard Yi Shang reveal her secret, a smile appeared on her face. "It's true. I have received the care of the surplus origin of my world." Night Sorrow nodded and continued, "Since we have entered the Golden Crow ancient world, why don't we go and look for opportunities?" "Good. I also have the same idea." Murong Kai-e agreed. Chapter 2648. To be honest, in recent years, the Horn race's range of activity in the ancient Golden Crow world is very small. Therefore, although we have spirit horns that can sense natural treasures, we don't know where the opportunities are, Zhao Kong explained. Zhao Kong explained, however, if you bring Zhao Linger with you, as long as you walk around the ancient Golden Crow world, you will be able to find opportunities. She is currently the one with the strongest perception in the Horn clan. As soon as Zhao Kong finished speaking, a skinny little girl appeared in front of Night Sorrow. This little girl was only 1.4 meters tall, but with the 2 horns on her head, she was about 1.6 meters tall. There was a hint of redness on her cheeks. This was not because she was shy, but because she was too timid. If we bring Cao Linger with us, we won't be able to hide the pair of horns on her head. I'm afraid she will be coveted. If we don't let her out, we won't be able to sense natural treasures. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow said, "How about this? As long as we meet people from the Golden Crow race, I will put Cao Linger into my spatial artifact. As for other high gods from the divine world, there is no need to do so." The Horn race supremacy had warned him not to have any conflicts with the Golden Crows here. As for the high gods from the divine world, although there were experts among them, Knight Sorrow was not afraid. He had the ability to fight against those of the same level. Murongzai looked at Cao Linger and asked, "Is the Horn race really so magical?" Of course. The reason why the Horn race was able to produce a supremacy was because of our powerful ability to find treasures. Zhao Kong said proudly. Actually, the Horn race had not lost their ability to find treasures. It was just that they no longer had the ability to compete for natural treasures, so they were declining. At this time, Zhao Hui said, "Linger, why don't you greet him? This is Knight Sorrow Merit God, the benefactor who saved our race." Knight Sorrow Merit God, hello. I am Cao Ling and I will help you find all natural treasures in the future. Hearing this, Cao Linger greeted him. Just call me Big Brother Knight Sorrow. Calling me Merit God is too awkward. Knight Sorrow smiled and said. Then, he took Cao Linger with him and walked with Murong Kai Yi in the Golden Crow ancient world. During the journey, Knight Sorrow kept his divine sense activated in case he encountered other people. They flew over the desolate mountain range for about 3 days. Cao Linger suddenly said, "Big Brother Knight Sorrow, there seems to be something at the bottom of this mountain." "Below the mountain? Which direction?" Knight Sorrow asked. He had already opened the clam dragon's eye and used the power of his soul, but he could not find anything. "It's right below here, about 100,000 kilometers away. I don't know exactly what it is." Cao Linger said softly with a hint of determination in her voice. 100,000 kilometers is not too deep. Let's try to break open this mountain. Knight Sorrow did not hesitate. He took out the Samsara halberd and cut open the mountain below. Under his control, the momentum was not too big. When they dug to a depth of 50,000 kilometers, not only did Knight Sorrow feel that there was something below, but even Murong Kai Yi also found some clues. Murong Kai Yi said with a smile, "Sister Linger's perception is really strong. There really is a natural treasure. My perception is clearer. There seems to be a king-level divine vein below, the kind that can provide for the divine king's cultivation," Cao Linger said again. This time, her tone was more determined. King-level divine vein. If it's a king-level divine vein, it can at least provide for your cultivation until the divine monarch realm. Murong Kai Yi analyzed for Knight Sorrow. Since it was Cao Linger who found it, she naturally would not ask for it. "Maybe, but my cultivation is mainly based on the power of virtue. Divine veins can only play a supporting role. After we find it, we will share it with everyone here." If it was really a king-level divine vein, it could be stored in the clear sky pagoda to provide for the cultivation of the entire Horn race. Knight Sorrow did not mean to be stingy about this. "No need, no need. Knight Sorrow Merit God. You are the benefactor who saved our race. Any natural treasure Linger finds will belong to you alone." Zhao Kong, the patriarch of the Horn race, heard Knight Sorrow's words from his spatial artifact and immediately declined. "I don't lack cultivation resources. Just take it," Knight Sorrow said without hesitation. "In the future, you will follow me to the eternal supreme world. There are dangers everywhere. If you are too weak, you will only be a burden and will also disgrace the Horn race. I believe that this is not what you want to see. So before I become the Divine King, you must do your best to cultivate. Even if there are 1 or 2 Divine King, it will be fine. Also, Patriarch of the Horn race, you can call me Brother Knight Sorrow. Don't call me anything else." Knight Sorrow felt very awkward being called Merit God. He could not bear to hear it. "Brother Knight Sorrow, your words really make us feel ashamed." Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Patriarch of the Horn race sighed. "Ancestor is an invincible sovereign. Our appearance in the eternal supreme world is indeed a disgrace to him. Horn race, listen up. I now announce that when Brother Knight Sorrow goes to the eternal supreme world, all those who have not cultivated to the divine monarch realm will stay in the divine world." How can we cultivate to the divine monarch realm? Most of the people of the Horn race had no interest or confidence in cultivation. In their opinion, they could never become a divine monarch or a divine king. Nothing is impossible. I am only a middle high god now. I am still very far away from the divine king. You have time to become a divine monarch realm, and I will spare no effort to provide you with cultivation resources. Knight Sorrow promised confidently. Now that he had Cao Linger by his side, he was very confident in obtaining resources. We are here. It is indeed a king-grade divine range. While Knight Sorrow was communicating with the horn race, Murong Tsai, who had been in charge of digging, suddenly said. Everyone looked over and saw a sparkling and translucent divine vein. It was like a real dragon, crawling on the ground. The divine spiritual qi was extremely dense. Just a whiff of it would make one feel refreshed, not to mention cultivating nearby. Good stuff. It is indeed good stuff. With it, you don't have to worry about cultivation resources for the horn race for the time being. Such a big king-grade divine range can help you cultivate a divine king. The purity of this king-grade divine range was above Cao Linger's estimation. Feeling the majestic divine spiritual qi, Knight Sorrow could not help but exclaim that Cao Linger was indeed extraordinary. The special ability of the horn race was indeed worthy of its reputation. Such a big king-grade divine range. Can your spatial device store it? Murong Tsai stared at the king-grade divine range in front of her with a dumbfounded expression and asked. You can't store it. Why don't you give this king-grade divine range to me, Shenyuan Yufeng? At this moment, before Yishang could open his mouth to reply, a voice laced with mockery slowly spoke. Chapter 2649. No one knew where Shenyuan Yufeng came from. He had been ranked second on the god list for many years. Although Yun Zhe, who was ranked first, was weaker every time he challenged him, his strength could not be underestimated. If not for accumulating his foundation, he could enter the divine sovereign realm at any time. Shenyuan Yufeng? How do you want us to give this divine vein to you? Knight Sorrow, who could take it, was not in a hurry to make a move. He wanted to see what Shenyuan Yufeng had to say. Compared to everyone present, Knight Sorrow was the calmest in front of this king-grade divine vein. Let's make a fair deal. I will give you 1 million divine crystals and you will give me this divine vein. Shenyuan Yufeng's eyebrows carried a trace of coldness, but he still smiled as he spoke to Yishang. His tone was slightly cold. What? 1 million divine crystals? Even if you have 100 times more, it is not enough to exchange for this king-grade divine vein. Do you think we have not seen the world? Hearing Shenyuan Yufeng's words, before Yishang could speak, Murong Tsai took the initiative to question him. Haha. If I am not wrong, you are Knight Sorrow and Murong Tsai, right? Before everyone entered the ancient Golden Crow realm, the god list had been updated. Shenyuan Yufeng had seen Knight Sorrow on it. He had paid attention to Murong Tsai before. He was a lecherous person and knew a lot about the female cultivators on the god list. It is us. So what? Murong Tsai felt Shenyuan Yufeng's invasive gaze and replied coldly. Let me put it this way. Other than Yun Zhe, who is stronger than me on the god list, the others are not worth mentioning. You have no idea how far Yun Zhe and I have walked on this path. Although we are not as good as some of the hidden geniuses of the ruler's manor, you two are obviously not from the ruler's manor. Shenyuan Yufeng said with a fake smile. I've realized that you're not very logical when you speak. Why don't you just say that if we don't give you the divine vein, you will kill us? Knight Sorrow, who was watching Shenyuan Yufeng, mocked. Yes, that is the reason. Can you get lost now? I am in a good mood after obtaining this divine vein. I'll let you off for now. The next time we meet, I won't be so courteous. Shenyuan Yufeng didn't look at Knight Sorrow, but stared at Murong Tsai and said, disgusting. Being stared at by Shenyuan Yufeng like that, Murong Kai felt like a piece of meat being stared at by a fly. Looks like keeping you alive is a disaster for the god realm. Originally, I thought that you were just greedy for the king-grade divine range. You don't deserve to die. Hearing Shenyuan Yufeng's words, Knight Sorrow immediately had a murderous intent. He didn't want to leave any hidden dangers for Murong Kai. You are just a middle-high deity. Defeating Wu Li back then was already a great stroke of luck. You dare to be so impudent in front of me, Shenyuan Yufeng. You really don't know the difference between life and death. Shenyuan Yufeng did not put Knight Sorrow in his eyes at all. He sneered, your trapping formation might be useful to others, but I, Shenyuan Yufeng, am not afraid at all. Without that, you're nothing. Is that so? Since you are so confident, then make your move. Knight Sorrow knew that Shen Yuan Yufeng had already investigated him. However, he now had a new trump card and was confident that he would win. I didn't want to make a move. I gave you a way out because I didn't want to alarm others. Now that you are courting death, I will quickly kill you in seconds. Killing intent immediately emerged from Shen Yuan Yufeng's body. Murong Kai Yi's complexion changed as soon as he released his god domain. This kind of aura belonged to a monarch god. It was not something that an ordinary high deity could possess. Now you understand the difference in strength between us, right? Shen Yuan Yufeng was not a monarch god but had already mastered some of the abilities of a monarch god. This was the source of his confidence. He didn't believe that a middle-high deity like Knight Sorrow could fight against him. I can see that there is a certain gap between you and me. Knight Sorrow smiled and transmitted his voice to Murong Kai Yi. Enter my spatial tool, I will deal with him myself. This all right. You be careful. Murong Kai Yi knew that she was completely useless in front of Shen Yuan Yufeng. She obediently entered the Haotian pagoda. At the same time, Knight Sorrow also took Cao Linger into his pagoda. Haha. I have been paying attention to Murong Kai Yi. If I am not wrong, the one who was taken into your spatial tool was a member of the Horn clan, right? She was the one who discovered this king-level divine vein. Shen Yuan Yufeng, who had noticed Cao Linger, said excitedly, Knight Sorrow, I will give you a chance. Give this Horn clan girl to me. I will not take the king-level divine vein. Don't dream. You should think about what you should think before your divine soul is destroyed. There is not much time left for you. At this time, Knight Sorrow's body also bloomed with a strong fighting intent. Shen Yuan Yufeng not only coveted Murong Kai Yi's beauty, but also discovered the existence of Cao Linger. He was not prepared to let her live. Bastard! I give you face, but you don't want it. You can't blame me for being ruthless. Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Shen Yuan Yufeng's face became completely gloomy. He took out a long sword made of several copper coins from his waist and used a secret technique. Money asks the heavens. When Shen Yuan Yufeng used this secret technique, countless copper coins immediately rushed towards Knight Sorrow from all directions. These copper coins were all made of divine origin energy. Almost every one of them was close to the attack of a monarch god. The momentum was extremely vast. It contains a formation. It has some skill. Facing Shen Yuan Yufeng's attack, Knight Sorrow initially thought that it was unwise for the other party to use a group attack. But soon, he discovered that although Shen Yuan Yufeng's move was a secret technique on the surface, it contained a formation. If not for the sea serpent's eye, Knight Sorrow might not have been able to see the clues. If he was not careful, he would be trapped in the formation. Reincarnation strike. Break for me. The essence of Shen Yuan Yufeng's attack was on the formation. The attack power was not very strong. Knight Sorrow used the reincarnation strike and disrupted the copper coins in the formation, easily breaking the move. I didn't expect you to have some ability to see through my money, asks the heaven's great formation. Shen Yuan Yufeng was slightly surprised that the formation was broken. However, he did not take it seriously. He had absolute confidence in his own strength. He then used his second secret technique, Chen Kuan Phaseless Sword. This move was different from the money asks the heaven's great formation. It was a completely open attack. Forbidden Reincarnation Spear. Facing Shen Yuan Yufeng's move, Knight Sorrow used the Reincarnation Heavenly Halberd to use the strongest spear art he currently knew. Shen Yuan Yufeng wanted to end the battle quickly and used his most powerful attack. Knight Sorrow, who had similar thoughts, also chose to do the same. Chapter 2650. Boom! The two of them clashed, and both of them retreated a certain distance. However, Knight Sorrow had the upper hand in this large-scale attack. His ultimate technique was about the same as his opponent's. The Samsara halberd that had absorbed the essence of the ruler's stone was obviously of a higher grade than Shen Yuan Yufeng's copper coin sword. The sharp tip of the spear directly shattered one of the copper coins on the sword. Bastard! My copper coin sword! You deserve to die! Shen Yuan Yufeng's copper coin sword relied on the support of the 18 copper coins to unleash its great power. Now that one of the coins had been shattered just as the battle began, his heart was bleeding. Starry secret technique. Shenyuan Yufeng, who was completely enraged, immediately used a secret technique to raise his strength to the peak. Then, he completely disrupted the copper coin sword and controlled the 17 copper coins to attack Night Sorrow. Looks like I overestimated you. Your strength is no match for Luo Changtian. Facing Shenyuan Yufeng's attack, Night Sorrow used the 33 Heavens secret technique and used the third move of the Green Rock Soul-Splitting Roar. While shaking Shenyuan Yufeng's soul, his left hand controlled the Samsara Halberd to unleash the Forbidden Reincarnation Spear. His right hand used the Splitting Heaven and Earth technique he learned from the Horn Race's sovereign. He had no intention of defending. Originally, when he saw Night Sorrow not defending against his 17 copper coins, Shenyuan Yufeng had a look of disdain. He felt that Night Sorrow was too arrogant. However, when Night Sorrow attacked, especially when he used the Splitting Heaven and Earth technique, Shenyuan Yufeng's expression completely changed. At this moment, he felt as if he was being attacked by the power of the origin. It was a feeling that was difficult to resist. It was as if he was facing the entire realm of the gods. How is this possible? How can there be such a powerful technique? Shenyuan Yufeng almost didn't dare to believe his own knowledge. He couldn't think of a way to defend against this technique. He didn't even use the trump card he kept to fight against the Divine Essence Dragon Lock formation. So the Splitting Heaven and Earth technique has such a special suppressive effect on cultivators. When Night Sorrow executed the hand of Splitting Heaven and Earth, he felt that it was slightly stronger than the Taboo Reincarnation Spear. However, when Shenyuan Yufeng executed it, he immediately felt that it was different. After understanding the true might of the Hand of Creation, Night Sorrow rejoiced. He felt even more confident about this trip to the ancient Golden Crow realm. At the same time, Shenyuan Yufeng, who was helpless against the Splitting Heaven and Earth palm, had his defenses completely shattered. The heavenly Samsara Halberd, which had unleashed the Forbidden Reincarnation Spear, pierced Shenyuan Yufeng's dantian. I didn't expect you to be so strong. Even Yunzhe is no match for you. Shenyuan Yufeng, whose dantian had been pierced, looked completely disheartened. You're just an intermediate high god. If you advance to upper high god, you'll probably become the #1 high god in the divine realm. God realm. Hearing this word, Night Sorrow, who originally wanted to destroy Shenyuan Yufeng's soul, suddenly stopped. He said, Originally, I wanted to destroy your divine soul, but if you promise to fight for the God realm in the future, I will leave you a way out and heal your dantian. Fight for the God realm? Do you want me to enter the ethereal mountain or the dark forest? Shenyuan Yufeng, who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, looked as if he had nothing left to live for. What you have to face is far more terrifying than the extraterrestrial demons. Rather than dying immediately, I think you might be able to contribute to the God realm. Yishang didn't mention anything about the Eternal Supreme World, but he planned to bring Luo Changtian and Shenyuan Yufeng there in the future. He would let them fight and unleash their final potential. This way they could contribute to the God realm. It was better than their souls being destroyed. Hehe. What could be more terrifying than having one's divine soul destroyed? Shenyuan Yufeng said with a bitter smile. Then he said, I can fight for the God realm, but for you alone that's impossible. We, the Shenyuan clan, have our own dignity. I said that I'm not fighting for myself. I'm fighting for the entire God realm. Night Sorrow explained. Then he said, and I'm leaving the God realm to fight in another realm. Does the legendary Eternal Supreme World really exist? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Shenyuan Yufeng's body shook. What? You've heard of the Eternal Supreme World? Night Sorrow looked at Shenyuan Yufeng in confusion. He did not expect him to say this name. Legend has it that the first patriarch of the Shenyuan clan not only achieved the position of sovereign, but also the position of supreme. In the end, he left the God realm and entered the Eternal Supreme World to fight. This matter has been passed down in the Shenyuan clan, but it has always been regarded as a legend. Shenyuan Yufeng explained. Then he continued, now that you mention this matter, I assume you have some understanding of the Eternal Supreme World? I've already met 2 supreme beings. When I become the Divine King, I will go to the Eternal Supreme World to fight for the God realm. Now, the situation there is very serious. The God realm needs more people to stand up. Although Shenyuan Yufeng's character was not good, his ancestor had a supreme being. Night Sorrow's tone softened a lot. So the eternal supreme world really exists. What my ancestor said is true. Shenyuan Yufeng's body trembled slightly. He was digesting Night Sorrow's words. After a while, Shenyuan Yufeng bit his lip and said, "Since two supreme beings have found you, it proves that you are the key to the future of the God realm. I, Shenyuan Yufeng, am willing to follow you." "I don't need you to follow me. If you have the heart, do your best to improve your strength. When I become the Divine King, I hope you can also become the Divine King. If you are only a divine monarch, going to the eternal supreme world may be a disgrace to the wisdom of our ancestors." Night Sorrow looked at Shenyuan Yufeng. He cultivated the power of merit and could determine whether the other party was telling the truth or not. "As long as my Dantian recovers, I will immediately break through to the divine monarch realm. I must represent all of my clansmen and pay respects to our ancestors." Shenyuan Yufeng's brows showed a trace of determination. The eternal supreme world had completely aroused his fighting spirit. "Good. After leaving the ancient Golden Crow world, I will take you to treat your Dantian's injuries. Now, enter my spatial artifact." Yi Shang said to Shenyuan Yufeng and then put him into his spatial Dharma artifact. Shenyuan Yufeng, who entered the spatial artifact, was completely stunned when he saw the thousands of clans and tribes. He knew that if the people of the God realm knew about this, Night Sorrow would be hunted down endlessly. The ancestor of the Horn clan is the same as your ancestor. They are both supreme beings and are currently fighting in the eternal supreme world. Protecting the Horn clan is something I promised the Horn clan's supremacy. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Shenyuan Yufeng and then said to the others in the spatial artifact, "Shenyuan Yufeng's ancestor is very likely the same as the Horn clan's supremacy and is fighting in the eternal supreme world. Let's turn hostility into friendship and forget the unhappiness just now. So you are also a descendant of the supremacy. I hope you can change some of your bad habits in the future and not disgrace the supremacy ancestors." The patriarch, Jiao Kong, looked at Shenyuan Yufeng and said earnestly. He had seen Shenyuan Yufeng's performance in the spatial artifact just now. "Yes, I, Shenyuan Yufeng, will definitely change my ways in the future." Shenyuan Yufeng replied with an awkward expression. "These things are all in the past. Don't mention them in the future. I hope you remember what you said today." Night Sorrow said to Shenyuan Yufeng and then used the clear sky pagoda to put the entire King-grade divine range into it. Night Sorrow, who had put the King-grade divine range into the pagoda, did not have time to be happy when he saw a bright golden underground palace appear under the divine range. Chapter 2651. Brother Night Sorrow, can you let me go out and sense it? Cao Linger, who had been taken into the spatial magical tool, saw the dazzling underground palace appear and immediately said, "Okay, come out." Night Sorrow responded and let the little girl out. After being let out, Cao Linger sensed the underground palace from a close distance and judged, "There seems to be a lot of weapons in this underground palace, countless weapons. In addition, there are some medicine gardens where spiritual herbs are planted." "Weapons? Can you sense what grade of weapons they are?" Cao Ling, didn't say divine weapons but weapons, which made Night Sorrow a little curious. "They don't seem to have the same aura as divine weapons, but they are very powerful. Some of them are at the monarch level and some are at the divine king level." Cao Ling, explained and continued, "This underground palace doesn't seem to be something from the divine world. Its aura is somewhat different. So it's like this." Night Sorrow nodded and looked at Murong Kai-e. "How about it? Shall we go in and check it out? Since we have encountered it, it's an opportunity. If we don't go in, then the trip to the Golden Crow ancient world will be too boring." Murong Kai-ye's face revealed a trace of a smile. In fact, she had come here to look for opportunities. Now that she didn't get anything, how could she be satisfied? "Okay. Since you want to go, we will go in now. However, you must pay attention to your safety." After Yi Shang said that, he took Murong Kai-e and Zhao Linger and rushed towards the underground palace to find a way to enter. However, before the three of them approached, the underground palace slowly rose from below and gradually floated in the air. Its golden appearance was as dazzling as the sun. This underground palace is floating in the air, so it will definitely attract other people's attention. Let's try to be one step faster. Night Sorrow explained and then took Murong Kai-e and Cao Linger to the sky. When they reached the height of the underground palace, they saw a platform and 3 entrances. Linger, can you sense what's inside each entrance? Night Sorrow, who was observing the 3 entrances, looked at Cow Linger, who had 2 horns on her head, and asked, "That's strange. I can still sense it from far away, but I can't sense it here." Cow Linger explained and continued, "I can only sense a very powerful force inside, but I can't sense any heavenly materials or earthly treasures." What's going on? Are we still going in? Cow Linger's words made Murong Kai-e somewhat nervous. Enter. Opportunities are fleeting. If we find that something is wrong after we enter, we can just leave immediately. Night Sorrow said, "The 2 of you enter my spatial artifact first. I'll let you out after you enter. We have to be on guard against unknown dangers." All right. Linger, let's enter the Clear Sky Pagoda. Murong Kai-e looked at the somewhat confused Cow Linger and entered the Clear Sky Pagoda side by side with her. As soon as they entered the Clear Sky Pagoda, Murong Kai-e said in surprise, "After collecting the king-level divine veins, the Clear Sky Pagoda is already very suitable for cultivation." The divine spirit aura inside the Clear Sky Pagoda was very rich. Moreover, it could accelerate and decelerate time by 100 times. Cultivating here would yield twice the result with half the effort. It was even better than the heritage of some big sections. Murong Kai-e couldn't help but sigh with emotion. In the future, you can enter to cultivate at any time. Let's enter the underground palace to see the situation first. After collecting the king-level divine veins, Night Sorrow hadn't entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to check. However, according to Murong Kai-e's words, he judged that the Clear Sky Pagoda wasn't simple. There were 3 entrances in front of them. Night Sorrow opened the sea serpent's eye to observe for a while. He found that each entrance contained vitality and death aura. It should be an opportunity and danger coexisting. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow entered the entrance closest to him. He thought that letting nature take its course might be the best choice. At the moment when Night Sorrow was about to enter, he heard the sound of something breaking through the air from afar. It turned out that 2 groups of people had arrived by flying magic tools. Without paying attention to them, Night Sorrow took the lead and walked into the entrance of the underground palace. After passing through a layer of membrane-like restriction, he found that he had arrived at a whole new world. The aura here was completely different from that of the Golden Crow ancient world. The divine spirit aura here was very thin. It was filled with another kind of aura that was almost the same. Is this the aura of a different world? Murong Kai-e, who hurriedly walked out of the Clear Sky Pagoda, immediately muttered doubtfully. Cow Linger said, "There should be heavenly treasures here. However, it seems to be different from the things in our God world." It is indeed a little different. I don't know if there are creatures from a different world inside. While speaking, Night Sorrow raised his head and used the sea serpent's eye to look into the distance. He found that the area in front of him was a dark brown land. The ground looked like it had been washed by the river countless times. However, there was not a single drop of water. It gave people a feeling of barrenness. As for creatures, he had not seen them yet. This place looks so barren. Does it really contain any heavenly treasures? Murong Kai-e, who was also looking into the distance, asked doubtfully. She felt that this world gave people a feeling of desolation. It does look very barren. However, if we continue to go deeper, it should contain life. I can sense the aura of life. Cow Linger said with certainty. Then she looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Brother Night Sorrow, if we continue to go deeper, there seems to be some strange beasts with very ferocious auras. Can you sense their strength?" Night Sorrow asked. Linger has tried her best, but I can't tell. Cow Linger shook her head. However, Linger can still sense an unusual herb garden. At this time Night Sorrow, who looked back, found that the door he had entered had disappeared. He immediately confirmed one thing. There was probably no way out in this world. Night Sorrow, who did not want to cause panic, continued to say, "In that case, let's continue. In a while, if there is danger, Linger, you enter the Clear Sky Pagoda to hide. In addition, Kai-e, if we find good things again, you have the priority to take them." How can I accept this? I can't do anything. Murong Kai-e immediately retorted. There is nothing to be embarrassed about. I have already obtained a king-level divine vein. Such a harvest would make even the Divine King and the Sovereign very happy. I am naturally satisfied. Night Sorrow said and walked in front. The aura here is very strange. It should not belong to the divine world. You follow behind me and pay attention to your own safety. Okay. I will pay attention. Walking here, Murong Kai-e felt a little discouraged. If not for Night Sorrow, she would not have been able to move even an inch. Night Sorrow, who was walking in front, kept moving forward on the hard ground. After flying for about 200,000 li, he used the power of his god soul to sense a group of creatures from a different world. They had snake bodies and tridents in their hands. Chapter 2652. The strongest Divine Monarch Realm monster with a human head and a snake body was only at the Divine Monarch Realm, but its aura was very powerful. It was almost as powerful as the half-step Divine King. The High God Realm monsters with human heads and snake bodies were all at the Divine Monarch Realm. Obviously, they were a group of monsters with strength greater than their level. Behind them was an altar that towered into the clouds. On the altar, there were 3 or 4 kinds of spiritual fruits and a pitch-black trident that emitted a cold light. The trident's aura and attribute were not the same as divine weapons, but its power was definitely not inferior to a king divine weapon. The aura of the trident is a bit strange, and its attribute is also very special. It would be great if we could get it. Maybe the Samsara halberd can advance to the king divine weapon. Night Sorrow observed the trident with the sea serpent eye. He did not want to alert the enemy, so he did not dare to use his divine soul power. As for the monsters with human heads and snake bodies, they were very powerful, but they seemed to be in a half-dormant state and were not active. They did not notice Night Sorrow and the others. The trident seems to contain some Dominator Realm materials. Its power is not comparable to an ordinary king divine weapon. Cao Ling-er, who was looking at the distance, was obviously excited to find a rare treasure. She transmitted her voice to Night Sorrow and Murong Tsai. She was too close to the group of monsters with human heads and snake bodies, so she did not dare to speak again. The trident in front of us is indeed very good, but these monsters are not to be trifled with. It seems that our strength is not enough. Murong Tsai said worriedly. There was not much confidence between her eyebrows. We have no way out. We can only choose to fight. Seeing Murong Tsai's state, Night Sorrow reminded her, there is no exit behind us. We can only fight all the way. But we are obviously no match for the monsters in front of us. If we act rashly, we will definitely die. Murong Tsai said worriedly. With our current strength, we are indeed unable to shake this group of monsters with human heads and snake bodies. But I have a way to improve my strength. Wait for me. Night Sorrow entered the spatial device and killed the Divine King level extraterrestrial devil Black Star in the bottle. The Black Star instantly turned into a large amount of power of merit and surged toward Night Sorrow's body. The Divine King's power of virtue was very rich. It took Night Sorrow 3 days and 3 nights to fully absorb all of it in his space artifact. His power of virtue had reached the peak of the mid-level superior god realm. If I absorb a bit more, my karmic energy will break through to the high god level. As a result, his cultivation base also rose to the high god level. At that time, I have absolute confidence that I can instantly kill the leading human-headed snake monster. Night Sorrow, who had completely digested the merit power he had absorbed, looked at Murong Tsai and the people of the Horn clan. Brother Night Sorrow, you said there's no way out. Is that true? Clan Chief Jiao Kong asked. Yes. When I first entered this world, I already noticed it. I didn't want to cause panic, so I didn't say anything. Right now, we only have one path, and that is to defeat the group of human-headed snake-bodied monsters in front of us. Let's see if we can find a way out. Night Sorrow explained and continued, I now need some karmic energy. I'm preparing to sneak attack those human-headed snake-bodied monsters alone. I reckon that if I kill some of them, it will be converted into karmic energy. As long as I advance to the high god level, the crisis in front of us will be easily resolved. Brother Night Sorrow, it's too dangerous for you to sneak attack alone. Although our Horn clan isn't strong, we can definitely fight. Jiao Kong immediately stood up to oppose Night Sorrow when he heard that he wanted to sneak attack the group of human-headed snake-bodied monsters alone. However, there were only a few monarchs in the Horn clan, and they wouldn't be of much help to the battle. Therefore, he wasn't very confident. After all, Although most of these human-headed snake-bodied monsters were at the monarch level, their aura was very terrifying. It's fine. Sneak attacks don't necessarily have to be done with more people. Night Sorrow said and brought everyone to a flat ground far away from the human-headed snake-bodied monsters to set up a concealment array. After letting everyone hide here, Night Sorrow took the Samsara halberd and the clear sky pagoda and set up a trap array 20,000 miles away from the group of human-headed snake-bodied monsters. He was prepared to lure these monsters into the array and destroy them one by one. First, he would break through to the high god level with his comic energy. I wonder if these monsters guarding the altar will be lured out by me. Night Sorrow looked into the distance and waved to Murong Tsai and the Horn clan. Then, he moved toward the group of human-headed snake-bodied monsters. With his current strength, killing a few monarchs in an instant was no problem at all. The difficult part was the monarch-level monster. It gave people a very dangerous feeling. Night Sorrow, you must be careful. If Night Sorrow had absolute confidence, he wouldn't let her and the Horn clan out of the clear sky pagoda. Murong Tsai, who was very worried, reminded him the moment he moved. It's fine. I'll be careful. These human-headed snake-bodied monsters are blocking the only way. We must kill them. Night Sorrow said and gradually approached the group of monsters. As he got closer, Night Sorrow, who had activated the Eye of the Sea Serpent, realized that the path in the distance was, in fact, cut off from the group of monsters. If I want to leave this small world, I'm afraid I can only rely on the array in front of me. Seeing the scene in front of him, Night Sorrow had an epiphany. He immediately activated the Treya battle mystic technique and adjusted his strength to the peak. 10,000 miles away, Night Sorrow, who was hiding in the concealment array that he had just set up, shot a raging flames demon at the group of human-headed snake-bodied monsters. Flames appeared all over the sky. The group of human-headed snake-bodied monsters was instantly thrown into chaos. Many human-headed snake-bodied monsters roared at the sky and looked around for the person who had shot out the flames. Here's my chance. The leading monarch-level monster had been guarding the altar without moving. Night Sorrow, who had discovered this, left the concealment array and rushed toward the monsters below. With a void reincarnation spear, he killed 3 human-headed snake-bodied monsters. It can indeed be converted into power of virtue. After successfully killing the 3 human-headed snake-bodied monsters, power of virtue immediately entered Night Sorrow's body. He immediately started killing monsters in the group of monsters. Although these god-level monsters were much stronger than ordinary god-level monsters, they were no match for Night Sorrow at all. They couldn't win by relying on numbers. At this moment, the monarch-level human-headed snake-bodied monster that had been guarding the altar and the pitch-black trident suddenly moved. It attacked Night Sorrow fiercely. This monster is a little fierce. I shouldn't be a match for it now. Chapter 2653. It's dangerous. The Yishang brothers were in a perilous situation. But there's nothing we can do. What should we do? Zhao Kong, the chief of the Horn clan, said worriedly after seeing Night Sorrow's dangerous situation. The strength of the monarch god-level human-headed snake-bodied monster was definitely at the level of a half-step divine king. It was much stronger than an ordinary half-step divine king in the divine realm. Murong Tsai said with a pale face, "We're both high gods, but I'm too weak to help Night Sorrow." In fact, Murong Tsai was worried but her eyes were shining. She felt that among the high gods in the divine realm, besides Night Sorrow, no one else could face so many powerful human-headed snake-bodied monsters. Green Rock's soul-splitting roar. Third roar break reincarnation. Night Sorrow didn't feel much pressure when the human-headed snake-bodied monsters had yet to react. When the monarch god-level human-headed snake-bodied monster came, he felt that the other high god-level human-headed snake-bodied monsters were like a tide, attacking wave after wave. It was very difficult to deal with. He had no choice but to use the divine soul attack. But after attacking, he found that these monsters didn't have divine seas at all. The Green Rock's soul-splitting roar had no effect on them. Forget it. I'll kill my way out. If I don't succeed, I'll die trying. Facing so many human-headed snake-bodied monsters, Night Sorrow, who was already injured, became ruthless. While using the Void Extreme Shadow Body to restrain the monarch god-level human-headed snake-bodied monsters, he attacked the other high god-level monsters and killed a dozen of them quickly. Oh woo! At this moment, The human-headed snake-bodied monsters were being killed by Night Sorrow. The leading monarch god-level human-headed snake-bodied monster was completely enraged. Its whole body turned golden. It was obviously going berserk. Then, the other high god-level human-headed snake-bodied monsters also turned golden. Their auras increased by 10 times in an instant. Even though Night Sorrow's strength was extraordinary, he was still completely suppressed when fighting against them in this state. If it weren't for the fact that his evolved Void Extreme Shadow body was extremely powerful, he might even be in danger of dying. Not good. Brother Night Sorrow is in danger. Let's charge. None of the warriors of the Horn People are cowards. Seeing that these monsters had become so much stronger, Zhao Kong immediately ordered the Horn People to attack. Under his command, all the High God Realm clansmen of the Horn Clan charged out of the concealment formation. The 2,000 or so people who rushed out of the concealment array immediately attracted the attention of the snake monsters. The leading human-headed snake monster turned its head to observe them. After confirming that these people's auras were not very strong, it used very strange language to give out orders. The human-headed snake-bodied group immediately split into about 70 groups and charged towards the group of 2,000 people. The only ones left to deal with Night Sorrow were the Divine Lord-level human-headed snake-bodied monsters and the 20 or so High God-level human-headed snake-bodied monsters. However, Night Sorrow, who had activated the Sea Serpent's Eye and used Void Extreme Shadow body, was able to deal with them with ease. He continued to slay one high deity after another. If this continued, Night Sorrow would soon be able to upgrade his power of virtue to the High God Realm. However, at this time, he noticed that the Horn People who were fighting with the other High God Realm human-headed snake monsters were completely slaughtered. Their combat strength was too weak. Although there were many of them could not even break through the defense of the human-headed snake monsters. Although Murong Tsai's strength was not bad, she could only protect a few people around her. The scene was very bloody and tragic. No. If this continues, there will not be many people left in the Horn People. How can I explain this to the Horn People then? Seeing the situation in front of him, Night Sorrow was anxious in his heart. At this time, he was so angry that he slapped his forehead and secretly scolded himself for being too stupid. At this moment of crisis, Night Sorrow remembered that he had 9 Divine King Grade God talismans on him. He had snatched them from the battle, so he did not immediately think of them. Let you try the power of the Divine King Grade God talismans. Although the 9 Divine King Grade God talismans in his hand were somewhat damaged under the bombardment of another God talisman, at least 80% of their power was left. Night Sorrow successfully activated one of the Divine King Grade God talismans in his hand, and smashed it towards the High God Realm human-headed snake monster. Roar! The human-headed snake monster that discovered that Night Sorrow had activated the Divine King Grade God talisman was immediately frightened by the aura of the Divine King Grade God talisman and thus escaped. However, the other High God Realm human-headed snake monsters were not fast enough and could not escape in time. More than 20 of them were killed at once. Night Sorrow was completely freed and rushed towards the Horn People tribe's battle position. At this time, although it had only been 10 breaths of time since the Horn People tribe joined the battle, dozens of Horn People warriors had been seriously injured, and a few were even on the verge of death. In front of these human-headed snake monsters, they were simply unable to withstand a single blow. All of you, enter my spatial artifact. I have the Divine King Grade God talismans, so I can easily deal with them. Seeing that the Horn People tribe had suffered a heavy blow, Night Sorrow quickly used the Clear Sky Pagoda to summon them in. Because Night Sorrow's reaction was fast enough, no one from the Horn People tribe had fallen so far. Tsai, you also come in. To avoid being accidentally injured by the Divine King Grade God talisman. After summoning Murong Tsai, Night Sorrow immediately activated the second Divine King Grade God talisman. The High God Realm human-headed snake monster that had fled far away noticed that the second Divine King Grade God talisman had been activated and immediately shouted to remind the other human-headed snake monsters. With its reminder, the human-headed snake monsters began to flee in all directions. Night Sorrow activated this divine talisman, so he only killed a dozen or so human-headed snake monsters. However, after the power of virtue entered his body, Night Sorrow's body suddenly shook. He clearly felt that the power of virtue had successfully advanced to the High God Realm. Very good. My power of virtue has advanced to the High God Realm, and I don't feel any discomfort. It seems that as long as I use the divine veins to cultivate the immortal divine art of the myriad Tao treasured tome in the Clear Sky Pagoda, I should be able to quickly advance to the high god realm in other aspects. Knight Sorrow, who had improved his strength, was in a good mood. Now that he had obtained some origin essence gold from the Horn People's sovereign, his strength was about to enter the high god realm. As long as he left this place, he could challenge Ling Yun and rescue Aunt Fei. The human-headed snake monsters that were shocked by the divine king grade god talisman all fled far away, not giving Knight Sorrow a chance to continue attacking. As they fled, Knight Sorrow immediately became the master of the surroundings. He directly flew to the location of the tall sacrificial altar. He stretched out his hand to take the pitch-black trident and let the Samsara heavenly halberd absorb it. After about a month's time, the Samsara heavenly halberd had completely absorbed the trident, and its grade had officially advanced to the king grade. However, because they were in the small world of the outsiders, the lightning tribulation of the king grade divine artifact did not come. After that, Knight Sorrow refined a vermilion fruit on the sacrificial altar into an elixir and turned it into water to treat the Horn People's injuries. After treating them, Knight Sorrow once again kept everyone in the Clear Sky Pagoda. He stepped onto a teleportation formation on the sacrificial altar and activated it with divine crystals. After the teleportation ended, Yi Shang appeared in a dazzling hall. At this moment, there were already a few groups of people in this hall. When they saw Knight Sorrow appear, they immediately revealed vigilant gazes. Chapter 2654. The aura of the origin essence was very dense and Knight Sorrow could sense it very clearly. However, even with the sea serpent eye and the power of his divine soul, he could not determine the location of the origin essence. When one of them saw Knight Sorrow appear, he looked at him vigilantly and said coldly, "Everyone here is a top high god of the god realm. Who are you and what is your name?" "Knight Sorrow. Who are you?" Knight Sorrow looked up at this person and found that this person was a male cultivator in white clothes. He had an innate sense of superiority between his eyebrows. Needless to say, he must be from a large family or the ruler's mansion. "Knight Sorrow, ranked 3rd on the high god list? You are not qualified to ask for my name. If you know what's good for you, scram. You don't have the right to stay here." Chao Hualian, who came to the ruler's mansion, said with disdain. In his opinion, the person ranked 3rd on the high god list was definitely not as strong as Yun Zhe and was no match for him. After all, when Yun Zhe saw him, he would unconsciously retreat. "Who do you think you are? You look like a eunuch and you dare to be arrogant? It's not up to you to decide whether I have the right to stay or not." Knight Sorrow looked around and saw that the people present were divided into several smaller groups. Chao Hualian, who was from the ruler's manor, had 3 slightly weaker high gods on his side. Although these high gods were nothing compared to Chao Hualian, who was a hidden genius of the ruler's mansion, they were stronger than Murong Tsai and could not be underestimated. "Bastard! Even Yun Zhe, who is ranked 1st on the high god list, does not dare to talk to me like this. You are courting death." Chao Hualian, who came from the ruler's mansion, had a cold killing intent between his eyebrows. He looked at Knight Sorrow as if he was looking at a dead person. Everyone else present was also attracted by Knight Sorrow. After they came in, they felt that their strength was about the same and that they were all safe. Moreover, no one could determine the location of the origin essence, so they got along quite well. "We will know who is courting death after we fight. I also feel that there are too many people here. Not everyone is qualified to stay and search for the essence gold." Knight Sorrow's entire body was filled with killing intent as he stared at Chao Hualian from the sovereign's manor. He immediately activated the 33 heavens. He used the 3rd move of the Blue Phoenix soul-splitting roar, Broken Samsara. Although Chao Hualian, who was in the ruler's palace, wasn't seriously injured, the 3 helpers beside him all cried out in pain. After Knight Sorrow's karmic energy had reached the high god level, his soul had grown significantly stronger as well. The power of his Azure Rock Soul Hunt roar had increased significantly. "Bastard! You're courting death. How dare you launch a sneak attack? I will kill you immediately." When Chao Hualian saw that Knight Sorrow's roar had injured 3 of his subordinates, he immediately flew into a rage. "If you want to kill me, you won't be able to do it with your tongue alone. Show me what you've got. No matter who you are, you don't have the right to show off in front of me." Knight Sorrow coldly replied to Chao Hualian. He then swept his gaze over the others and said, "If anyone else thinks that I, Night Sorrow, don't have the right to stay here, you can come out and fight. We're all here to search for opportunities, not to be looked down upon by anyone." As Night Sorrow swept his gaze over the crowd, he discovered that quite a few hostile gazes had been directed at him. Most of them withdrew their gazes. Now that Night Sorrow and Xiao Hualian were preparing to fight, even if the others were confident in their own strength, they weren't willing to join in and expose their strength. "Good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Night Sorrow, you'll regret your words in a moment," Xiao Hualian coldly said. He then used a secret technique that increased his strength by 7 or 8 times. Then, he used a cold scythe in his hand and used an ultimate technique, slashing it at Night Sorrow's neck in an attempt to take his head. This was one of his strongest ultimate techniques, the cold scythe. Xiao Hualian had used this move to take the lives of countless opponents of the same level. Now that he used this move, he had an obvious arrogance on his face. He felt that he would definitely kill Night Sorrow in an instant. According to his judgment, his strength was far above Yun Zai's, who was first on the upper god list. It would be a piece of cake for him to deal with the third on the upper god list. "Weak. You don't have the right to be arrogant with your strength." Facing Xiao Hualian's ultimate technique, Night Sorrow didn't feel that his life was in danger. His attack was stronger than Shenyuan Yufeng's, but it was actually on par with Luo Chongtian's attack from Luo Chongtian's residence. This kind of strength wouldn't have been much of a threat to the Yishang of the past, let alone the Yishang who now had even more trump cards. Hand of Heaven and Earth Splitting. The heavenly Samsara halberd was only one step away from the Divine King's lightning tribulation to become a king-grade divine artifact. If it was used in front of everyone, it would obviously be a threat to some people. It wouldn't be good if it attracted a group of people to attack it. Night Sorrow directly used the Hand of Heaven and Earth Splitting to grab Xiao Hualian's cold scythe. "Ignorant child, using your hand to grab my attack. You're really courting death." Seeing that Night Sorrow didn't use his divine artifact, but chose to use his hand to use an ultimate technique to grab the terrifying cold scythe, Xiao Hualian's face revealed a cruel smile. Very strong. This Night Sorrow has the ability to defeat Yun Zai." At this moment, a young man in green who was watching suddenly saw Night Sorrow use the Hand of Heaven and Earth Splitting. His eyes immediately lit up and his fighting spirit rose. He was Zhen Yidian from the Tianyi family. He was an expert that no one dared to offend. After all, the Tianyi family's name shook the entire realm of the gods. He was recognized as the #1 person in the realm of the gods. Zhen Yidian was the #1 high god that the Tianyi family had worked hard to create. In the hearts of everyone, he was the most advantageous contender for the title of #1 high god in the divine realm. Moreover, Zhen Yidian was indeed bellicose. He had already defeated several experts from the Tianyi family. If there weren't any hidden high god experts in the divine realm, then he should already be invincible in the high god realm. "Zhen Yidian, don't judge others and always drag me into it." Not far from Zhen Yidian, a scholarly-looking Yun Zai, who was dressed in linen clothes, said with some displeasure. He was ranked first on the divine list. As a result, some high gods who had transcended the standard always used him to judge the strength of others. Moreover, none of these absolute experts were willing to truly challenge him and chase him down from the divine list. Some people displayed very strong strength that made Yun Zai feel ashamed of his inferiority. However, he didn't even have the chance to seek defeat. Moreover, his strength was inferior to others, so he didn't dare to provoke them too much. He was afraid that he would be instantly killed by some hot-tempered fellows. As a result, he had always been ranked first on the divine list. This was a position with infinite glory but also infinite awkwardness. "Yun Zai, don't try to anger me. I won't defeat you and take first place on the divine list." Chapter 2655. At that moment, Night Sorrow and Xiao Hualian had already clashed. Night Sorrow, who had just used the Hand of Genesis, would not have his arm cut off or his head cut off as Xiao Hualian had expected. On the contrary, his Hand of Genesis was extremely powerful. With one blow, he had deflected the ice scythe and sent a palm strike towards Xiao Hualian's spirit ocean. Although he did not shatter Xiao Hualian's spirit ocean in one blow, his spiritual soul trembled under the ferocious attack. The power of the Hand of Genesis was not to be underestimated. Knight Sorrow, who was bare-handed, had already gained the upper hand. Chao Hualian's expression turned ugly as he felt embarrassed. He could not accept being suppressed by someone who was ranked third on the divine ranking list. Endless Scythe Storm. The enraged Chao Hualian was like a wild beast that had gone berserk. In an instant, his body grew several times larger, and he had 3 heads and 6 arms. His 6 hands all held the same sickle, and he used his ultimate skill together. Looks like it's hard to block this move without using the Samsara Heavenly Halberd. Knight Sorrow felt a lot of pressure when faced with Chao Hualian's Endless Scythe Storm. The power of this move was definitely much stronger than Shang Su Yuan and Luo Changtian. Although he did not want to expose the Samsara Heavenly Halberd so soon, Knight Sorrow felt that other moves would not be able to block this attack. Hence, he took out the newly evolved Samsara Heavenly Halberd from his spatial device and attacked. Knight Sorrow did not use any of his moves because he was confident in the Samsara Heavenly Halberd. He felt that there was no need to use the spear technique. Boom! 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 With the help of the Eye of the Sea Serpent, Knight Sorrow could see through the traces of Chao Hualian's moves and use the Samsara Heavenly Halberd to repel them. After 6 consecutive sounds, the scythes in Chao Hualian's 6 hands all shattered and disappeared into the void. Not a single trace was left behind. Not only had the Samsara Heavenly Halberd been upgraded to a king-grade artifact, but the tip of the spear had been strengthened by the Dominator Stone. Its toughness was almost unmatched except for Dominator-grade artifacts. Mine. Hexagonal Demon Scythe. The scythes in his 6 hands were all shattered by Knight Sorrow. Chao Hualian let out an extremely unwilling roar. He had spent countless years to create these 6 scythes. This was the only way to connect them with the blood in his 6 palms. At this moment, you're about to lose your life. How can you still care about a few broken sickles? Knight Sorrow said disdainfully after seeing Chao Hualian's reaction. From the beginning until the end, he didn't care about Chao Hualian's identity at all, and he completely ignored his origins. After using the Samsara Halberd to shatter the 6-sided demonic scythe, he used the Samsara Halberd to strike again. Just like before, it was an ordinary attack, but its power was just as terrifying. Brother Knight Sorrow's strength has improved so much in such a short time. As expected of the person chosen by the ancestors. Zhao Kong, who was in the Clear Sky Pagoda, praised Knight Sorrow from the bottom of his heart when he saw how ferocious he was. You don't know, but a few years ago, Knight Sorrow was only a feather god. He had participated in the 7-sect tournament of the Divine World's Yunxian continent. Murong Tsai explained inside. In my master's words, there may only be one Knight Sorrow in the Divine World, and he may create a magnificent feat that no one has ever done before. Then, do you have any feelings for Brother Knight Sorrow? After all, since ancient times, beauties have always loved heroes. Zhao Kong asked with a smile. The falling flowers have feelings for the heartless brook. However, you can't blame Knight Sorrow. He already has a few wives who are as beautiful as fairies. There is no room in his heart for anyone else. Murong Tsai sighed faintly. When Knight Sorrow was in the Feather God realm, she already had feelings for him. Later, after the 7-sect tournament, she asked the people in the sect to investigate Knight Sorrow. In the end, she found that he already had a few wives, so she dispelled some of her thoughts. Actually, it doesn't matter how many wives Brother Knight Sorrow has. The important thing is whether there is fate between you two. Zhao Kong sighed and said, if there is fate between you two, no amount of people can stop it. If there is no fate, even if you two are together all the time, there won't be any progress. Perhaps it is like this. However, the current me is completely unable to keep up with the progress of his strength. I don't have the qualifications to be entangled in this matter. Murong Tsai looked at Knight Sorrow, who was still suppressing Chao Hualian, and said faintly. Knight Sorrow's strength was progressing too fast. It was so fast that people couldn't understand it, which made her feel inferior. I don't know who you are, and I'm not interested in your identity. However, since you have provoked me, you should be prepared to be punished. Knight Sorrow, who had completely suppressed Chao Hualian with the Samsara Heavenly Halberd, had basically controlled the situation. When he was suppressing his opponent, he had already planned to defeat him and imprison him in a spatial artifact like Luo Changtian. It was best not to kill some of the people from the dominating clans. Otherwise, it might bring a big trouble to the sect. What I mean is, Do you have the qualifications to stand here? Now that you have the qualifications, how about we stop here? When he said this sentence, he had completely admitted defeat. Chao Hualian felt a burning pain on his cheeks. However, he knew that Knight Sorrow, who had suppressed him without even using the spear, was not someone he could defeat. Unless he used the extremely taboo move. There was an extraterrestrial demon, which was infinitely close to the Divine King, hidden in his body. If he was fighting with Knight Sorrow alone, he would have summoned it long ago. However, at this time, in front of so many geniuses in the God world, he naturally wouldn't do so. You are the one who provoked me. You are the one who attacked first. Now you want to stop? Simple. Surrender, give up resistance, and let me imprison you in my spatial artifact. Knight Sorrow, who had activated the Eye of the Sea Serpent, noticed that there was a faintly discernible black aura on Chao Hualian's body during the battle. This dark aura clearly belonged to an extraterrestrial demon. This made him completely wary of Chao Hualian, and he didn't want to let him go at all. Knight Sorrow, you are not from the dominating clans, and you are not from an ancient race in the God world. You have no right to be arrogant with me. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't make a mistake. Otherwise, I will use my trump card to kill you. Chao Hualian was very unhappy that Knight Sorrow continued to suppress him, and he had already started to threaten him verbally. However, as a god-level genius who had been specially nurtured by the dominating clans, Chao Hualian did indeed have many trump cards. He had more than a dozen king-level talismans, not to mention the extraterrestrial demon hidden in his body. What abilities do you have? Show them all. I, Knight Sorrow, am not afraid of extraterrestrial demons at all. Knight Sorrow had spoken about extraterrestrial demons, so he definitely wouldn't let Chao Hualian off. What? Extraterrestrial demons? What are you talking about? Chao Hualian coldly reprimanded him, then continued, I, Chao Hualian, have always been upright. How can you slander me like this? Die. Chapter 2656. Chao Hualian, what are you doing? Are you trying to put everyone in danger by using a king-level talisman in such a small space? Seeing Chao Hualian use the king-level talisman, Cheng Xiao of the Dark Moon Dominator Mansion immediately reprimanded him. Zhan Yedian of the Tianai Dominator Mansion also had a cold gaze. After all, the other party using a king-level talisman in such a small area was a threat to everyone present. He coldly berated, Chao Hualian, if you don't want to die, put away your talisman. Actually, it wasn't just Zhan Yedian and Cheng Xiao who were unhappy. Yun Zhe and some other high gods from ancient families were also on guard. Because in such an environment, if Chao Hualian suddenly threw the king-level talisman at them, it would be completely destructive. The king-level talisman has been activated. There is absolutely no possibility of taking it back. Being reprimanded by the two experts, Chao Hualian's expression turned ugly. He explained, don't worry, I will only use this king-level talisman to deal with Knight Sorrow. You can't wait to silence him after the secret in your body was revealed. Facing Chao Hualian, who had activated the king-level talisman, Knight Sorrow had a cold smile on his face. He had the power of merit and had already started using the sea serpent's eye. He could even sense the aura of an extraterrestrial demon on a cultivator's body. I won't go so far as to silence you, but killing you is a must. Go to hell. Chao Hualian shouted crazily and threw out the fully activated king-level talisman. It's just a king-level talisman. It's not like I haven't faced one before. The expressions of everyone else changed, but Knight Sorrow was very calm. He was even considering whether he should use the Samsara Heavenly Halberd to fight and test his true strength. However, after thinking about it, he felt that it was dangerous and high-profile to do so. It might be disadvantageous to the treasure hunt that was about to begin. He directly used the Merit Dragon Locking Array in Chao Hualian's direction. Now that Knight Sorrow's power of merit had advanced to the level of a high god, and Chao Hualian had the dark aura of an extraterrestrial demon on his body, he was most afraid of the power of merit. After this move, Chao Hualian, who had just used the king-level talisman, was somewhat stunned. To his dismay, he found that Knight Sorrow had sealed him and the exploding king-grade divine talisman in a sealed space. Time was of the essence, so there was no time to use an artifact to break the spirit array. Boom! This thought flashed through Chao Hualian's mind before the divine talisman in his hand exploded. Chao Hualian was not the first person to be bombarded by a king-grade divine talisman in a sealed space, but he was definitely the most miserable. Not only was he blasted into a bloody mess, even more than half of his divine sense had collapsed, and his dantian was severely damaged. No matter what, he would never be able to recover to his peak. The high god nurtured by the sovereign palace had been completely crippled. Extraterrestrial demon, are you still not coming out? After killing Chao Hualian completely, Knight Sorrow brandished the heavenly samsara halberd once again. He wanted to force the extraterrestrial demon out of Chao Hualian's body. However, even though Knight Sorrow's samsara halberd had completely pierced through Chao Hualian's dantian, the extraterrestrial demon still did not appear. If you don't appear, I will destroy his divine sense. See. Let's see where you can hide then. The extraterrestrial demon did not appear at all. Knight Sorrow shouted as he stabbed at Chao Hualian's divine sense. See. This Yishang is strong, but why is he so paranoid? Chao Hualian's character is average, but he comes from a sovereign family. Why would he collude with the extraterrestrial demon? If a powerful existence like the sovereign palace colluded with the extraterrestrial demon, then the god realm would have been destroyed long ago. Bai Zhe, who was standing not far from Zhan Yedian, asked in confusion when he saw Knight Sorrow repeatedly mention the extraterrestrial demon. Wind from an empty cave may not be without cause. Knight Sorrow has the power of merit. Perhaps he can see things that we can't sense. Zhan Yedian's brows were slightly solemn. He felt a lot of pressure when it came to Knight Sorrow. After a brief assessment, he felt that he did not have absolute confidence in winning. Knight Sorrow's cultivation was still at the intermediate high deity level. Zhan Yedian did not dare to think about the consequences if he advanced to the upper high deity level or half-step divine lord level. This was because if one thought about some things too clearly, it would bring about a devastating blow to one's confidence. If there really is an extraterrestrial demon hiding in Chao Hualian's body, then it's really a terrifying matter. Bai Zhe's gaze locked onto Knight Sorrow's face. He felt that there was not a trace of malice in his eyes. Ant-like thing. Since you have a death wish, then I shall grant you your wish. Just as the tip of Knight Sorrow's samsara halberd was about to pierce Chao Hualian's divine sense, an extremely evil voice immediately sounded from Chao Hualian's divine sense. Then, an extraterrestrial demon that had concealed its true aura emerged from Chao Hualian's divine sense and stood in front of Knight Sorrow. Cultivators like us can only enter the ancient Golden Crow realm with the strength of a high deity. An evil spirit like you, who is already a half-step divine king, can still enter. This is really unexpected. This extraterrestrial demon had disguised himself as a human, and his aura had also been carefully concealed. Only Knight Sorrow could use the sea serpent's eye and the power of merit to see through his true identity. How can an ant like you judge the methods of the ruler's mansion? The extraterrestrial demon, Black Edge, who had been questioned, roared and sent a palm strike toward Knight Sorrow. In his opinion, although Knight Sorrow's strength was not weak, he would definitely be killed by an attack that was infinitely close to the Divine King's. As long as he could kill Knight Sorrow, he would definitely have the ability to shut the mouths of others and not be completely exposed. How dare an evil spirit like you call me an ant? I will expose you and Chao Hualian in front of everyone. I now suspect that the prestigious ruler's mansion is colluding with the extraterrestrial demon. Knight Sorrow roared and used the forbidden reincarnation spear with his samsara halberd. This was the move he had originally wanted to use to block the attack of the king-level talisman. He had absolute confidence in facing a half-step divine king. But Knight Sorrow, who had used the forbidden reincarnation spear, found that he had missed. It felt as if he had hit cotton. There was no sense of bombardment at all. At the same time, Black Edge's attack successfully landed on Knight Sorrow's body. This move felt like splashing ink. Even Knight Sorrow had to admit that this move was very mysterious. But how could Knight Sorrow, who had been hit by a palm strike, allow himself to be captured without putting up a fight? He immediately used his power of merit to block it. The power of merit was the nemesis of all evil spirits. It helped relieve a lot of Knight Sorrow's pressure. Even so, he was still sent flying by the palm strike. As expected of the extraterrestrial demon that is about to become the Divine King. You do have some tricks up your sleeve. But there are only two outcomes waiting for you. Complete exposure and destruction, turning into power of merit. Chapter 2657. Night Sorrow. You slandered the ruler's residence for colluding with the extraterrestrial demon. Today, no one will be able to protect you. Go to hell. The well-disguised extraterrestrial demon, Xiaofan, roared and attacked Night Sorrow again. This move was similar to a splash ink landscape painting. It looked formless, but it was extremely powerful. The same move is useless. Night Sorrow, who was already prepared, used the sea serpent's eye to observe the loopholes in Xiaofang's attack. Then, he used the Samsara halberd to attack with the Raging Flame Subduing Demon. The Raging Flame Subduing Demon was a large-scale attack. Although Xiaofang's movements were unpredictable, he was still covered by it. Damn it! What kind of flame is this? Xiaofang's cold voice sounded when he was burned by the flames of the Samsara halberd. Phaseless Reincarnation Fist. Night Sorrow imitated a similar fist technique based on his opponent's move and named it the Phaseless Reincarnation Fist. This move was similar to Xiaofang's attack. It was to scatter oneself in the air like ink on a piece of paper. At the last moment, it would explode and deliver a fatal blow. This Night Sorrow really has some skills. He can actually comprehend his opponent's move in the middle of a battle. Zhan Yedian of the Tianai ruler's residence immediately said softly when he saw Night Sorrow use the Phaseless Reincarnation Fist. How is this comprehension ability just having some skills? I think he's completely terrifying. No one is willing to face such an opponent. Yun Zhe, who was ranked first on the upper god list, stared at Night Sorrow and revealed a helpless smile. Although he had never fought with Night Sorrow before, he judged that it was impossible for him to suppress his opponent with his own strength. Everyone else present also had surprised expressions. Yi Shang's performance had surprised them. Xiaofan, who was facing Night Sorrow, sneered. It has the form, but not the spirit. Your move is completely ineffective against me. As he roared, he struck out once more to counter the attack, saying that my move is ineffective. This is the most ridiculous thing you've done today. Night Sorrow, who was hiding in the void, roared as he unleashed this move. Furthermore, he had added the power of virtue into the formless reincarnation fist. He did not believe that a fist technique made from the power of merit would be useless against an extraterrestrial demon. In the end, this attack did not explode with an earth-shattering sound. The world seemed to have come to a standstill. However, after the two of them fought together, the golden power of merit and the black power of the heavenly demon burst out immediately. Did you see that? He has the aura of darkness. He's an extraterrestrial demon. After Night Sorrow's power of virtue bombardment, a large portion of the dark aura on Black Peak's body had been exposed. He warned the others. However, after hearing Night Sorrow's reminder, everyone looked at each other, and no one spoke. All of them looked numb, as if they were looking at something that had nothing to do with them. How can you be so numb when you see an extraterrestrial devil? If the divine realm relies on so-called geniuses like you in the future, I'm afraid you'll be destroyed by the extraterrestrial devil. Seeing that the geniuses of the ruler's residence, including Zhan Yedian, had no intention of attacking after discovering the extraterrestrial devil, Night Sorrow disdainfully said, He's your opponent. What does it have to do with us? After being questioned by Night Sorrow, Yun Zhe, who was very jealous of his ability, coldly snorted. Very good. The extraterrestrial devil has nothing to do with you? Do you dare to say this in front of the ruler? Night Sorrow glanced at everyone and said disdainfully. Then, he continued to fight with Black Peak. Brother Zhan Yedian, when we see the extraterrestrial devil appear, do we really not need to kill him? The god-level genius of the dragons, Long Xiangyu, immediately transmitted his voice to Zhan Yedian when he saw the extraterrestrial devil appear. In his opinion, the ruler's residence was the strongest force in the divine realm. He should be the backbone when facing outsiders. Therefore, he transmitted his voice to him. He's Night Sorrow's opponent. What does it have to do with us? Compared to him, I would like to exchange pointers with Night Sorrow. Zhan Yedian replied to Long Xiangyu. In fact, he felt that Black Peak's strength was ridiculously strong. He didn't dare to attack because he was afraid that he would die here. The other high gods felt the same. They felt that Black Peak's strength was very close to the Divine King's. They were a little afraid. In their hearts, They felt that it was good that Black Peak didn't attack. How would they dare to participate in the battle? Hearing this, Long Xiangyu's face turned ugly. He didn't know what to say. He transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, don't worry. Not everyone in the divine realm is apathetic. Long Xiangyu, will help you. Long Xiangyu? You're from the dragons? Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Long Xiangyu and asked. Yes. I'm from the dragon's empty faction. I'll help you now. Long Xiangyu said and released his divine realm, preparing to participate in the battle. Don't be in a hurry to attack. I still have the ability to fight against this evil spirit. Night Sorrow replied and asked, I want to ask you a question. Senior Long Tianqing. Is she from the dragons? Long Tianqing? Hearing this name, Long Xiangyu asked doubtfully, Tianqing, the divine king, is my grand aunt. She is from the dragons. Night Sorrow, be careful. Long Xiangyu originally wanted to explain Long Tianqing's identity to Night Sorrow. But at this moment, he saw the extraterritorial demon Black Peak launching a sneak attack. Therefore, he changed his tone and reminded him. It's fine. I'll wait for him. Night Sorrow replied. Obviously, the pressure wasn't as great as he expected. Facing Black Peak's sneak attack, he easily used the virtuous dragon lock formation to bind him temporarily. Black Peak had the ability to tear apart the virtuous dragon lock formation. Therefore, the moment Night Sorrow used the formation, he used the Samsara halberd to use the forbidden Samsara spear. This move was comprehended by Night Sorrow based on the unstoppable thunderbolt, the forbidden spear, and the Samsara spear. Although it was mainly of the Samsara attribute, it also contained the thunder attribute. In addition, Night Sorrow specially added the power of virtue. It was very effective against evil creatures. Night Sorrow, you deserve to die. I'll torture you to death. After being hit by this move, Black Peak immediately let out an evil growl. Black Peak used some kind of secret technique as he growled. The aura around him instantly became several times stronger. At this moment, his dark aura burst out without any concealment. Everyone! This extraterritorial demon has already exposed himself. Are you going to continue watching apathetically? Feeling the evil aura of the extraterritorial demon Black Peak, Long Xiangyu immediately questioned loudly. However, seeing how powerful Black Peak had become and how close he was to the Divine King, Long Xiangyu felt that it was too late. Let's go. There's no suspense in the battle here anymore. Everyone, don't get implicated. Everyone, including Tianai and Zhen Yedian from the ruler's manor, led the others and fled into the depths of the main hall. Chapter 2658. Look at how high-spirited the sovereigns are. How did they nurture trash like you? Long Xiangyu cursed in disdain when he saw all these people flee. Then he shouted, Brother Yi Shang, among the current exalted gods, only you have invincible spirit. I, Long Xiangyu, admire you. Ha ha ha. Brother Long, aren't you the same? Night Sorrow laughed when he saw that there was still one person who hadn't been scared away by Black Peak. To be honest, he was extremely disappointed when he saw Zhan Yedian and the rest flee. In his opinion, the geniuses of the Sovereign Manor should be the strongest in the heavenly realm. They didn't even have the courage to attack the extraterrestrial demon. This was despicable and an insult to the sovereigns. Hee hee. Looks like you only have one useless helper. Black Peak laughed evilly when he saw Zhan Yedian and the rest flee. He was very proud of himself for scaring off so many geniuses. I, Night Sorrow, alone is enough to deal with you. I don't need any helpers. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're close to the Divine King? You're not the real Divine King, are you? Night Sorrow roared and used the virtuous dragon-locking formation on Black Peak again. This move of yours is completely useless against the current me. Black Peak, who was growing stronger and was about to reach the level of the Divine King, didn't care about the virtuous dragon-locking formation at all. With his current strength, breaking the formation was no problem at all. Boom! However, just as Black Peak was about to break the formation with his strength, a huge explosion came from the virtuous dragon-locking formation. Night Sorrow activated a king-grade talisman under the cover of the virtuous dragon-locking formation's aura. The explosion of the king-grade talisman immediately dealt a heavy blow to Black Peak. You extraterrestrial demons are nothing compared to the methods of the heavenly realm cultivators. So what if you're close to the divine king? Aren't you still suppressed by me, a exalted god? Black Peak was at his strongest, and he could even scare off geniuses like Zhang Yedian. This caused his confidence to soar. Night Sorrow had chosen to activate the King Grade God Talisman at this moment. The timing was very good. After severely injuring Qi, Night Sorrow said in disdain. Then, he used the heavenly Samsara halberd to launch the forbidden reincarnation spear. Previously, when Black Peak was not seriously injured, he was very wary of the forbidden reincarnation spear, let alone now. Its choice was to flee as soon as possible. It turned into a black mist that filled the sky and was about to dissipate into the void. This move was very similar to the attack it had used in the beginning. Night Sorrow had already dabbled in this. Using the Sea Serpent Dragon's Eye and the power of merit, Xiao Chen immediately determined the approximate location and executed the third move of the Azure Rock Soul-Rending Roar, Broken Cycle. This kind of attack was filled with confidence. In fact, it was what evil creatures feared the most. After being roared at by Night Sorrow, Black Peak immediately fell out of the void. Long Xiangyu, come and help us. If you have any tricks, use them on it. Black Peak's figure fell out of the void. Night Sorrow felt that it was no longer a big threat and immediately transmitted a message to Long Xiangyu. Then, he summoned Murong Tsai from the spatial artifact and said, "Take advantage of its weakness and kill it. Let's attack with all our strength and not give it the slightest chance to breathe." Alright. I will use my strongest skill. Murong Tsai, who came out of the clear sky pagoda, launched an attack full of battle intent. When Long Xiangyu and Murong Tsai attacked Black Peak, Night Sorrow quickly swallowed a few vitality recovery elixirs. The attack he executed just now was too fierce, and he was already somewhat exhausted. Phew! I have recovered. Thank you both for restraining it. Night Sorrow, who had recovered more than half, used the heavenly Samsara halberd to execute the spear art and attacked Black Peak. At this moment, Black Peak was injured by the explosion of the King Grade God Talisman and the Azure Rock Soul-Rending Roar. It was already an arrow at the end of its flight. It did not resist for long and was completely killed by Night Sorrow. After Black Peak was killed, it immediately turned into power of virtue and rushed into Night Sorrow's body. Perhaps because he had just absorbed the power of virtue of a real divine king, Night Sorrow felt that the power of virtue that Black Peak turned into was not particularly strong. It only helped him consolidate his strength as a high god. Brother Yishang, your skills are really amazing. Although you have the help of a king-level divine talisman, to be able to kill an invincible monarch god-level extraterrestrial demon with the cultivation of a middle-level high deity is really peerless. After Black Peak was completely killed, Long Xiangyu immediately praised with a smile. The main reason is that the King-grade Divine King played a big role. It almost directly exploded to death. Night Sorrow humbly expressed and said, "Now, you can continue to talk about Senior Tianqing. Grand Aunt Tianqing is the granddaughter of the dragon ancestor. The power of her bloodline is very strong. The outside world thinks that she is ranked on the divine monarch list and that her cultivation is a divine monarch. In reality, she has already become a divine king. It's just that after becoming a divine king, she has not fought even once." Long Xiangyu's eyes revealed a trace of admiration when he talked about Long Tianqing. So Senior Tianqing is really the divine king. No wonder her methods are heaven-defying and can easily heal the injury to the Dantian. Hearing Long Xiangyu's words, Yi Shang sighed and nodded. Thinking about how Long Tianqing wanted him to fight Ling Yun, Night Sorrow felt that it was best for him to continue to become stronger. Therefore, he looked at Long Xiangyu and asked, "Brother Long, you arrived here before the two of us. Can you tell us about the situation in this hall? The aura of the origin essence is so strong. What is going on?" "Actually, I have not been here for long. From what they said, it seems that the origin essence might be in the depths of the hall. However, it should not be that easy to obtain because it contains great danger. Otherwise, they would not be discussing things here. They would have attacked long ago." Long Xiangyu began to narrate. Then he asked, "Brother Night Sorrow, the people of the ruler's manor have otherworldly demons on them. Do you think that the ruler and the otherworldly demons are related?" "Brother Long, don't casually talk about the ruler." When he heard Long Xiangyu's words, Yi Shang spoke to stop him. There was no concrete evidence that the ruler was related to this matter. He felt that they should not casually talk about it. All right. I won't talk nonsense. The dignity of the ruler should not be offended. After all, they are the strongest existences in the divine realm. Long Xiangyu sighed. He felt that he was in danger. He had almost caused a disaster. The strongest existences in the divine realm are definitely not them. Knight Sorrow did not agree with Long Xiangyu's words. After saying that, he said, Brother Long, I will summon a member of the Horn race to help find treasures. I hope that you can keep this matter a secret. Is that all right? Yes, of course. Long Xiangyu, who had been thinking about the previous sentence, was immediately attracted by the words, Horn race. Knight Sorrow, who had summoned Cao Ling looked at her and said, Ling can you feel anything? I can feel that the aura of the origin essence is fake. However, there is another great opportunity here. Chapter 2659. Another great opportunity? Linger, what did you sense? Looking in the direction that Cao Linger was pointing, Knight Sorrow looked at Knight Sorrow with the sea serpent's eye. It was too far away, so he couldn't see anything. The item's grade is beyond the king grade. It's probably a dominator grade item, but I can't sense what it is exactly. Cao Linger said honestly. She had made this judgment based on the aura of the king grade item. A dominator grade item? Long Xiangyu was shocked when he heard this. Although everyone had entered the ancient Golden Crow realm to find opportunities, no one would have thought that they would encounter a dominator grade opportunity. I'm not sure if it's a dominator grade item. I only know that it's definitely above the king grade. Cao Linger said uncertainly. Dominator grade items are hard to come by. Even the dominators of the god realm can't get their hands on them easily. Maybe it's between the king grade and the dominator grade? Long Xiangyu said with a smile. No, definitely not. I think it's either a dominator grade item or a supreme grade item. Cao Linger retorted and continued, Linger's senses can't be wrong. Linger, I trust you. Lead the way. Knight Sorrow nodded with a smile and said, I'll protect you along the way. Don't be afraid. I'll lead the way for Big Brother Knight Sorrow. But isn't it inconvenient for us to bring an outsider like him? Cao Linger pointed at Long Xiangyu and said faintly. Jiao Kong had transmitted these words to her, telling her to ask Yi Shan. It's fine. Brother Long isn't an evil person. We can travel together. Knight Sorrow smiled at Long Xiangyu and said, Brother Long, although we're friends, we'll rely on our own abilities when we encounter a dominator grade or supreme grade item. You don't have any objections, right? Brother Yishang, you're looking down on me. Long Xiangyu. The opportunity was discovered by little sister Linger. How can I snatch it from you? Long Xiangyu retorted and looked at Cao Linger. Little sister, don't worry. Today, I'm just here to make friends with Brother Knight Sorrow. Oh, then I'm relieved. Jiao Linger nodded, almost tripping over the horns on her head. Murong Kai-yi quickly supported him and said with a smile, I feel that the horn on your head is very heavy. That's right. It's much heavier than my body. Jiao Linger muttered. Linger, if I get good things, I will give priority to the horn people. I won't let you work in vain. Let's go. Yi Shang smiled and let Jiao Linger lead the way. Under Cao Linger's guidance, Knight Sorrow brought Murong Kai-yi and Long Xiangyu to the depths of the palace. After flying for about 3 days, they didn't see Zhen Yijian and the others. How can this palace be so majestic? We've been flying for so long and we still can't see the end. Long Xiangyu couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the palace. It was almost as high as the sky and they couldn't see the end. It's really majestic. Although I'm in the divine world, I've never seen such a majestic palace. Murong Kai-yi nodded. The palace's floor was paved with jade, and it was all flat. However, they couldn't see the end. I seem to have lost my way. At this time, Cao Linger, who hadn't spoken for a while, frowned. Even she couldn't tell the location of the opportunity. I think this palace doesn't occupy a large area. Instead, it contains a formation. If there's no accident, we'll never reach the end if we keep flying. Knight Sorrow, who had opened the eye of the sea serpent, carefully observed the surroundings. However, He couldn't see the existence of any formation. Judging the formation of this place was definitely beyond his own understanding. He took out some formation books from his spatial artifact and flipped through them. However, after reading for a while, he still couldn't find the answer he wanted. Brother Night Sorrow is right. We're probably in a formation. That's why there's a problem with my perception. Cao Linger couldn't tell the direction and made the same judgment. Yes. It seems that we're really in a formation. Flying aimlessly like this isn't a solution. Let's think about what to do. We definitely can't break the formation. We can only think of a shortcut. The items that Cao Linger sensed were either at the sovereign or supreme level. Night Sorrow felt that the formation should also be at the sovereign or supreme level. The few of them didn't have the ability to see through it. They could only diverge their thoughts and take an unconventional approach. If we're going to think of a way, the first thing we have to do is figure out the mentality of the person who set up the formation. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Long Xiangyu frowned and pondered for a while. However, it's really difficult to figure out the other party's mentality. I do have some ideas. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, I think there are two possibilities for now. What possibilities? Brother Night Sorrow, just say it. Long Xiangyu urged. Senior, let the aura of the treasure leak out. One possibility is that this senior used the aura of the treasure to lure the latecomers into the formation and trap them to death. The other possibility is that the senior didn't want the treasure to be covered in dust and disappear forever in the long river of history. Then, he didn't want it to be taken away so easily. Therefore, he designed a formation to test the latecomers. Yi Shan, who was observing his surroundings, spoke with a clear mind. After listening to your analysis, it does seem to make sense. I only hope that the senior we met wasn't of the first type. Long Xiangyu sighed. If the person who created this palace was of the first type as Night Sorrow said, then they would probably never be able to get out. I think the second possibility is more likely. After all, a sovereign-level senior didn't need to make things difficult for us latecomers. Murong Kai-i also expressed her opinion. Night Sorrow nodded and said, in any case, we should think in a positive direction. If we really can't find any pattern, I will keep flying forward and show my patience. That's the only way. Murong Kai-i nodded in agreement. She felt that it wasn't easy for Night Sorrow to speculate so much in this situation. Moreover, after thinking about it carefully, she felt that this speculation was very reasonable. Subsequently, the four of them pondered about the countermeasures on the flat palace. After studying for a few days, they almost thoroughly checked the dust around them but didn't find any clues. Long Xiangyu suddenly said, why don't we try to attack the ground? What do you think? I think this is the only way. Let's try it. Night Sorrow also considered this possibility and nodded. The test of this great hall was very different from that of ordinary cavern dwellings or mystic realms. Chapter 2660. Then I'll do it now. After getting Night Sorrow's approval, Long Xiangyu immediately took out a trident divine weapon and smashed it on the jade-like ground. Boom! After the trident made contact with the ground, the scene in front of everyone immediately changed. They appeared in a world with flowers and water. This world, like the ancient Golden Crow world, also had 3 suns. It looked like it was built to imitate it. Is this an opportunity? When everyone appeared here, they were all stunned. However, after a moment, Murong Tsai asked doubtfully. Although this world was very similar to the ancient Golden Crow world, there was no divine spiritual chi at all. It gave people an extremely barren feeling and did not look like there were treasures at all. Moreover, the space here was not very big. With the power of the divine soul, they could cover the entire range. There doesn't seem to be the aura of heaven and earth treasures here. Cao Linger carefully sensed and then shook her head in disappointment. Hearing this, Long Xiangyu sighed and said, alas! At first, I thought that we were lucky to appear in other worlds. I didn't expect it to be like this. It's better to go back to where we were just now. Don't be excited. This should be an illusion formation. As long as we break it, there should be new discoveries. Night Sorrow, who had opened the eye of the sea serpent, saw some loopholes in the world in front of him and the location of the formation eye. After studying for a while, he successfully broke the formation in front of him. The formation collapsed with a bang. This world did not change much, but a box appeared in front of everyone. It seems to be the reward for breaking the formation? Long Xiangyu immediately said doubtfully when he saw that a box appeared after Night Sorrow successfully broke the formation. There is indeed the aura of heaven and earth treasures inside, but it is at the divine monarch level. Cao Ling, who sensed it, immediately said. They opened the box and there was a divine monarch elixir inside. After Yi Shang opened the box and took out the pills, they were immediately teleported to the large hall they had been in earlier. After such a struggle, I seem to understand something. After appearing in the hall, Night Sorrow immediately took out the Samsara halberd and smashed it on another piece of ground nearby. Boom! Just like before, they appeared in a small world again. This time, after breaking the array, they obtained another Divine Lord level medicinal pill. It seems that every time I attack an area, I will appear in a different world. Let's continue. After discovering this feature of the hall, Night Sorrow and the others began to continuously try. In about 3 years, they had continuously broken through more than 40 small worlds. Although each of these minor worlds was more difficult than the last, Night Sorrow still succeeded and obtained 2 king-grade divine artifacts. Such a harvest was enough to satisfy everyone. However, after the heavenly Samsara halberd struck the ground again, everyone appeared in a palace that was almost identical to the main hall. At this moment, many people had gathered in the palace. It was clear that this time, they did not enter a single sealed space. Brother Yi, you're here too. Did you successfully kill that opponent of yours? One of the Kunping race's great gods said when he saw Night Sorrow. When Night Sorrow and Black Peak were fighting, he had been watching from the side. Due to the other party's power, he did not dare to make a move. When they saw Night Sorrow, Zhan Yedian of the Tianai Dominator Manor, Cheng Xiao of the Dark Moon Dominator Manor, and Yun Zhe, who was ranked first on the Great Gods list, all looked over. They did not expect Night Sorrow to be able to escape unscathed when facing an extraterrestrial demon that was close to the strength of the Divine King. This was something that no one present could do. Therefore, they were afraid of Night Sorrow's appearance. You are. Night Sorrow had been very focused during the battle and did not pay attention to the other party. I am Kuan Tao of the Kunping race. Brother Yi is strong and I admire you. Kuan Tao cupped his fists at Night Sorrow and said respectfully. Oh, nice to meet you. Night Sorrow responded and did not mention the matter of killing the extraterrestrial demon. He knew that the other party was trying to get information out of him. Brother Night Sorrow, there is the aura of a dominator item here and it is very strong. At this moment, Cao Ling, who was following beside Night Sorrow, suddenly transmitted her voice. Oh, are you sure? Where is it? Hearing this, Night Sorrow's gaze immediately turned sharp. I can't sense the exact location but the aura is very strong. Cao Ling said faintly. I can't sense it. It should be the same as the small worlds we broke open. It might be placed in the reward treasure chest. Having stayed in this area for several years, Night Sorrow already had a certain understanding of this place and spoke his judgment. At this moment, he looked at Kuan Tao and said, Brother Kuan Tao, what's the situation here? Hey, what else can there be? Everyone is trapped here and can't get out. Before Kuan Tao could say anything, Yun Zhe sighed. Standing not far away, Zhan Yedian, Cheng Xiao and the others from the Dark Moon Dominator's mansion also had ugly expressions. That day, Night Sorrow and the extraterrestrial demon Hei Feng fought fiercely. They had fled all the way and did not expect to appear in this extremely small world. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed and no one had found a way out. We can't get out. What's the situation? Tell me in detail. Night Sorrow looked at Yun Zhe and asked. This sealed small world is probably a very high-level illusion array. No one here can break it. If we can't break it open, then wouldn't we have to stay here forever? Yun Zhe, who was ranked first on the god list, had a trace of hostility between his brows. After being trapped for so long, he was in a very restless mood. That's right. We've already used all our methods but we haven't been able to break the array. I wonder if Brother Yi has the ability to break the array? If Night Sorrow succeeds in breaking the array, my Tianyi Dominator's mansion will remember this favor. Zhan Yedian, who was also in a bad mood, also spoke. Cheng Xiao, who had been silent all this time, also looked at Night Sorrow and said softly, The Dark Moon Dominator's mansion will not treat Brother Yi unfairly. In fact, we are all proud sons of heaven from various large factions or races. Every time you save one of us, you will obtain a great opportunity. The Kuan Peng clan will be the same. Kuan Tao echoed. Other than that, everyone else present also opened their mouths and prayed for Night Sorrow's help. Seeing that everyone was praying for Night Sorrow, Long Xiangyu muttered disdainfully. When Night Sorrow was fighting with the extraterrestrial demon, he needed all of you, but all of you ran away. Now, you're begging him to save you. Isn't this a little too shameless? Hee. It was our fault for running away just now. However, everyone's strength is limited. We are not as brave as Brother Yi. If we were to bite the bullet and participate, it would be no different from courting death. However, the white-clothed Yunzhe explained with a smile. Chapter 2661. Yunzhe knew that Night Sorrow was the virtuous feather god. His self-restraint and bearing were not something an ordinary person could compare to. It's not impossible to save you, but if an opportunity appears after breaking the formation, I hope that you will give it up. Night Sorrow glanced at everyone and said, if you can agree to this request, I will think of a way to break the formation. Cao Ling had already said that there was an item with the aura of a ruler inside. If everyone gave up on fighting for it, it would save them a lot of effort. All right. Although we've retreated once, we're not shameless people. Since Brother Yi has said so, I, Zhen Yidian, will agree on behalf of everyone. Zhen Yidian of the Tianai Dominator's Manor said this before looking at everyone and saying, can I represent all of you? Represent. Represent. Yunzhe and the others immediately replied. They had been trapped here for more than 3 years. If Night Sorrow did not appear, this time might have been extended to several reincarnations or even eternity. This was something that no one wanted to face. At this moment, even if Night Sorrow asked them to hand over all their wealth, most of them would agree. However, Night Sorrow was clearly not that kind of person. After thinking for a moment he said, since that's the case, I agree to break the formation. However, in the process of breaking the formation, I need all of you to cooperate with me. You don't need me to tell you that the illusion formation in front of you is very difficult to break. Of course. We will all provide the necessary resources for Brother Yi. Zhen Yidian said straightforwardly. Brother Night Sorrow, they are all despicable people. Be careful. It's best if they swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, when a treasure chest appears, they will definitely betray us. Long Xiangyu looked at Zhen Yidian and the others with a gaze that was filled with vigilance. I know what you're saying, but there's no need for them to swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. Night Sorrow said with a smile as he looked at everyone. At this moment, he saw Shang Su Yuan and Zhu Qing in an inconspicuous corner. At this moment, the two of them no longer had the arrogance from that day. Their gazes were intentionally avoiding Night Sorrow. These two arrogant young masters made Night Sorrow understand that no matter how brilliant Hegemon's clear sound was, it was still possible for scum to appear in her clan. Thus, even though Zhen Yidian came from the Tianai clan, he was still on his guard. After observing the formation with the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow said, the level of this illusion formation should be Divine King level. With my cultivation, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to break it. What? Divine King level? What should we do? Upon hearing the words Divine King level, the expressions of Zhen Yidian and the others immediately changed. Generally speaking, a Divine King level illusory formation could not be broken by brute force, even if it was bombarded with a king level talisman. To the high gods, this was an unreachable existence. It's not that there's no way. With my current cultivation, I can't break it. However, if I have a large amount of resources to raise my cultivation and advance to the high god level, there should be a slim chance. If I can advance to the half-step Divine Lord level, then I have full confidence that I can break the formation. Night Sorrow said with a cold expression. These people had already betrayed him once. Although he cultivated the power of merit and had the kindness to save people, he could not act so easily. Humph. This Yishang was clearly raising the price on the spot. Now that we don't even know if he has the ability to break the formation, we have to provide him with cultivation resources? Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yunzhe immediately sent a voice transmission to Zhen Yidian. Zhen Yidian said, He can defeat a half-step divine king with the strength of a mid-level high god. Perhaps he can break the formation when he advances to the high god level. However, if he cultivates to the high god level, his strength will probably be beyond our reach. I'm not worried about his strength increasing. I'm just afraid that if we give him the resources, he won't be able to break the illusion formation. If that's the case, we won't have any cultivation resources in this small world in the future. We'll be completely trapped in a situation where we can only wait for death. Yunzhe said with some displeasure. Although Night Sorrow was very strong, he had not displayed any ability to break the formation. He was still very suspicious. If he takes the things and is unable to break the formation, we'll just attack him together. With so many experts here, how can we be afraid of him alone? Zhan Yedian sneered and sent a voice transmission to Yunzhe. Everyone was rather fearful of Night Sorrow's strength. After all, he had survived at the hands of a half-step divine king-level extraterrestrial demon. Moreover, none of the people around him were injured. This was an ability that none of them possessed. That's true. Not to mention his strength, who would have the courage to offend all the ruler's residences? Now that he has already killed Chao Hualian of the ruler's residence, if he offends us, then there will be no place for him in the divine realm. When Yunzhe thought of this, he felt a little better. That's right. I'll communicate with the others. Zhan Yedian replied to Yunzhe and sent a voice transmission to Cheng Xiao and the others of the Dark Moon ruler's residence. Under his persuasion, everyone, including Shang Su Yuan of the ruler's residence, took out all kinds of cultivation resources to let Night Sorrow take the lead in breaking through. Thank you, everyone. I'll take the things in front of me and enter the spatial artifact to cultivate. When I advance to the upper deity level, I'll reappear and break the formation. Looking at the cultivation resources that everyone had contributed, Night Sorrow revealed a trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth. These people were indeed the key nurturing targets of various large factions, families, and races. The quality of the resources on them was extremely high. After instructing them, Night Sorrow, who had collected all the resources, entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to cultivate. For safety reasons, Murong Tsai and Cao Ling'er were also kept in the pagoda. Long Xiangyu, on the other hand, was outside to protect him. He was guarding against the others in order to prevent anyone from making a move. Now that the Clear Sky Pagoda has the support of a king-grade divine pulse and a 100-fold acceleration, you can take the opportunity to cultivate. Night Sorrow said to Murong Tsai and Cao Ling'er, then found a deserted area to cultivate the immortal divine technique of the Myriad Tao treasured tome. As for the others of the Horn clan, they were completely immersed in cultivation. After all, Night Sorrow had said that those who had not become divine lords were not qualified to go to the eternal supreme world. With a 100-fold acceleration and a king-grade divine pulse, they had made great progress. As for Night Sorrow, his power of virtue had already broken through to the upper deity level. He crazily absorbed the energy of a king-grade divine pulse and the cultivation resources contributed by many geniuses. In about 100 years in the spatial artifact, he had successfully advanced to the upper deity level in all aspects. When Night Sorrow walked out of the Clear Sky Pagoda, the god-destroying tribulation immediately came. The small tribulation of advancement was not difficult for Night Sorrow at all. He easily passed through it. Brother Night Sorrow, you have successfully advanced from the middle deity level to the upper deity level in just a year. How many times faster is your spatial artifact? Chapter 2662. Spatial artifacts of the time attribute were extremely rare in the entire divine world. Now that Night Sorrow had displayed a spatial artifact of the time attribute, Zhan Yedian was a little surprised by his accumulation. After all, everyone present knew that Night Sorrow came from Tianyun's school and did not have a powerful backer. The reason why I broke through so quickly is that my power of merit has already broken through to the superior god level. Therefore, the improvement of my cultivation, body, and soul is also a matter of course. It has nothing to do with the discovery of space. Night Sorrow did not say how many times the spatial artifact could increase speed. Although these so-called geniuses in front of him were no longer a threat to him, the factions behind them were different. If they heard that Night Sorrow had a spatial artifact that could increase speed by 100 times, some of the Divine King might be jealous and snatch it. So that's how it is. Zhan Yedian smiled. He did not believe Night Sorrow's explanation. However, he did not dare to say too much, afraid that he would make Night Sorrow unhappy. He asked, "Brother Yi, now that your strength has increased, can you try to break the formation?" "Since I, Night Sorrow, have received benefits from everyone, I will naturally do my best to break the formation." Night Sorrow nodded and opened the sea serpent's eye to observe the composition of this illusion formation. With the increase in strength, Night Sorrow's sea serpent's eye evolved again. He could now see the layout of a divine king-level formation with some difficulty. With the support of the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow flipped through some of the formation books that he had recently obtained. In the end, he confirmed that the divine king-level formation in front of him was called the Phaseless Small World. After confirming this, Night Sorrow did not hide anything and explained to everyone, "The trap formation in front of us is called the Phaseless Small World. For the time being, I don't have the confidence to break the formation, but if I study it carefully for a period of time, there should be a chance to break out. Everyone, don't worry. Brother Yi is indeed a genius. Not only is his strength extraordinary, but he is also proficient in formations." Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Cheng Xiao of the Dark Moon Ruler's manor praised him and continued, "Why don't I introduce Brother Yi to the Dark Moon Ruler?" The ruler of the Dark Moon loved to promote talents. The former Heartless Divine King was originally just an ordinary Divine Lord, but after joining the Dark Moon Hegemon, his power skyrocketed to the level of a Divine King. Supposedly, he is already showing signs of breaking through to the Hegemon level. For now, I'm doing well in Tianyun School. I have no intention of joining any forces. The ruler of the Dark Moon and the Heartless Divine King were both people that Night Sorrow loathed. How could he possibly choose to join them? After rejecting Cheng Xiao's words, Night Sorrow once again studied the non-phase small world that trapped everyone. After about a month, Night Sorrow's thoughts gradually became clear. He looked at the crowd and said, "If you want to break this formation, you need some materials. I have more than half of them, but I'm still missing a few essential materials. Everyone, think of a way to get them." "You want things again? Aren't you trying to cheat us of our resources?" Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, some of the geniuses present began to whisper amongst themselves. They were all geniuses that had been carefully nurtured by their own forces. Some of them had been spoiled to the point of insanity. Shang Xuyuan was one of them, but he was still relatively well-behaved and subconsciously avoided Night Sorrow. "Who says I'm trying to cheat you of your resources? Do you want to break free quickly, or do you want to stay in the non-phase small world forever and live with your resources? Do you think I, Night Sorrow, care about your resources?" Yi Shang was very displeased that everyone was still doubting him under such circumstances. He didn't have any tricks up his sleeve, and he disdained using such methods to plunder resources. At present, resources below the level of the Divine King were trash to him. "Brother Yi, don't be agitated. There are some people present who don't have the same tolerance and breadth of mind as Brother Yi. It's understandable that they would say something unpleasant. As the Merit High God, don't lower yourself to their level." The strongest person present, Zhan Yedian, immediately came out to smooth things over. His future was very bright. As long as he could leave this non-phase small world, he was willing to pay any amount of resources. "Brother Zhan Yedian is right. Brother Yi, don't let a few villains affect your mood. I, Cheng Xiao, will also fully cooperate with you." Cheng Xiao of the Dark Moon Sovereign Mansion was also a rich and overbearing person. She immediately took out a large amount of resources from her spatial artifact. She said, "Choose what you need. If we cooperate, we should have mutual trust. To put it bluntly, I, Night Sorrow, don't even care about the things in your hands." Night Sorrow took the resources that Zhan Yedian and Cheng Xiao took out and looked at some of the people present with disdain. At this time, Yun Zhe, Shang Su Yuan and the others, who were also rich, also took out their resources without saying a word and let Night Sorrow choose. Shang Su Yuan looked at Night Sorrow with a somewhat apprehensive gaze. "For the sake of Ruler Qingyin, I won't argue with you. We'll write off what happened last time. But remember, in the future, you have to keep a low profile. Because without Ruler Qingyin, the current you might be nothing." Seeing Shang Su Yuan's performance, Night Sorrow said, "Yes, Brother Yi is right. I, Shang Su Yuan, am too arrogant. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai." What Yi Shang had displayed had completely subdued Shang Xu Yuan. Hence, Shang Shuyuan admitted defeat. Then he stood behind Yi Shan, which meant that he had joined Yi Shan's camp. Zhu Qing, who was originally a little embarrassed, hesitated for a moment before walking over and apologizing. Brother Yi, Zhu Qing was too inappropriate and offended Brother Yi. I hope you don't mind. Ruler Qingyin saved my life. I won't be too calculative with her people. Let's write off the matter between us. Knight Sorrow looked at Zhu Qing and said. Although it was impossible for Shang Xuyuan and Zhu Qing's personalities to change drastically in an instant, Knight Sorrow could tell that they were sincerely convinced by him, so he didn't lower himself to their level. Like a civil servant. Seeing Shang Xuyuan and Zhu Qing standing behind Knight Sorrow, Yunzhe immediately sent a voice transmission to Zhan Yedian unhappily. Hee. Isn't it the law of survival in the God realm to rely on the strong? What's there to be embarrassed about? Zhan Yedian said indifferently. All right. Your bearing is extraordinary. It's my, Yunzhe's, lack of vision. Hearing Zhan Yedian's words, Yunzhe replied disdainfully. At the same time, Knight Sorrow used the resources in his hands to officially start breaking the formation. Now that he had already studied the phaseless small world and gathered the materials, breaking the formation was a piece of cake. Not long after, with a loud bang, the world in front of him completely changed. The illusion formation that trapped everyone was broken, and a brand new world appeared in front of them. This was a mountain peak with dense forests. In the air above the mountain peak, a huge golden treasure chest floated. The aura of the treasure chest contained the aura of a dominator. Inside was definitely a heaven-defying treasure. Other than Knight Sorrow, who was mentally prepared, everyone was so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. Chapter 2663. A Dominator-grade item was definitely a supreme treasure in the current God realm. The appearance of the golden treasure chest caused an uproar. Many people started to discuss it, and countless people transmitted their voices. They were all trying to figure out what to do. After all, they had already promised Knight Sorrow that they wouldn't fight for the treasure that appeared after breaking the array. Zhan Yedian, what are you planning to do? Yunzhe, who was ranked first on the god list, immediately transmitted his voice to Zhan Yedian. In his eyes, Zhan Yedian was the wind vein. As long as Zhan Yedian appeared to fight for the treasure, he would have a chance to fish in troubled waters. Although we promised Knight Sorrow, we didn't make a heavenly oath. This is his most important item. No matter what, I won't give up a Dominator-grade item. Zhan Yedian's tone carried a trace of excitement. Actually, this was understandable. For a high god cultivator to encounter a Dominator-grade opportunity, this was something that could only be encountered by chance. Shang Xuyuan and Zhu Qing, who were originally standing on Knight Sorrow's side, also started to discuss. The two of them were clearly interested in the golden treasure chest. After all, Dominator-grade items were not only useful, but they could also be used to participate in Dominator-grade comprehension. It would be greatly beneficial for their future cultivation. After studying it for a while, Shang Xuyuan said, if it was a Divine King-grade treasure, I would choose to give it up. However, if I give up a Dominator-grade treasure like this, I'm afraid my Dao heart will be uneasy. If anyone makes a move later, we will fight for it. His voice was trembling. Clearly, he was excited because of the Dominator-grade item. In fact, Zhu Qing was in a similar state. She replied, if we obtain the Dominator-grade item in the golden treasure chest, we will have a chance to break through to the Dominator realm in the future. We definitely can't give it up. Even if it's disgraceful to betray him, those who want to achieve great things don't care about trifles. The other expert present, Dark Moon Dominator Residence's Chang Xiao, also started to transmit her voice, looking for a target to form an alliance with. She knew that Knight Sorrow was very strong now. Even she probably wasn't his match. Hee. Everyone, what do you mean by this? From your expressions, you want to fight for it? Knight Sorrow saw everyone's expressions and asked with a smile. A Dominator rank item might not appear even once in 10 reincarnations. I, Zhan Yedian, don't want to give it up. I hope Brother Yi can understand. Zhan Yedian of the Tianai Sovereign Manor didn't reveal any greed on his face, but his words made his attitude clear. Shang Xuyuan and Zhu Qing walked out from behind Knight Sorrow and said, the two of us have the same attitude. Even if we have to risk our lives, We have to fight for a Dominator rank opportunity. How can we give it up so easily? Ha ha ha. Could it be that you've all forgotten the agreement we made before breaking the formation? Without me breaking the formation, all of you will be trapped here forever. How will you have the chance to talk about the heavens and earth? Without waiting for the others to speak, Yishan asked with a laugh. Seeing Night Sorrow's expression, Yunzhe said with a faint smile, Night Sorrow, we didn't swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. Why can't we participate in the snatching? You can only blame yourself for being inexperienced and not letting us swear. Good. Very good. Do the rest of you have the same intention? Night Sorrow swept his sharp gaze across everyone present. Other than Night Sorrow, Murong Tsai, and Long Xiangyu, there were more than 30 other high gods. Each of these high gods had the strength of the god list. Among them, Zhan Yedian, Cheng Xiao, Shang Su Yuan, and Zhu Qing all had the strength to challenge the number one person on the god list, Yunzhe. They were indeed not to be underestimated. Brother Yi, we are grateful that you saved everyone. However, we have already paid enough for that matter. After all, the resources for you to advance to the upper god rank and the materials to break the formation were all gathered by us. Kuan Tao of the Kuan Peng clan said, feeling good about himself. At this time, Cheng Xiao said coldly, Night Sorrow, the item that appeared now is definitely Dominator rank. It's not something you can swallow alone. It's impossible for you to take it for yourself. Even if you can get it now, you will have to spit it out when you return to the God realm. Which one of you here doesn't have a backer stronger than you? This is reality. You must bow your head. Do you think you are qualified to make me, Night Sorrow, bow my head? Hearing Cheng Xiao's words, Night Sorrow sneered and retorted. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I know that you are very strong, but there are so many people here. It's impossible for you to dominate. Regarding the matter of Yishang facing off against a half-step God-King level otherworldly demon, Cheng Xiao was still very fearful in her heart. Her words were like a ticking time bomb that detonated everyone present. The people who were originally very afraid of Night Sorrow's strength felt as if a window had been opened in their hearts. If you can't beat him alone, you can choose to form an alliance. Many people began to ponder this matter in their hearts and began to communicate. At this time, Zhen Yedian said, Brother Yi, after all, you broke the illusion formation and saved me. Out of respect for you, I, Zhen Yedian, challenge you. If I win, you will withdraw from the fight for the golden treasure chest. What do you think? If you want to fight, then let's fight. But if you choose to fight, then you will become my mortal enemy. Think carefully. Night Sorrow knew that everyone was greedy and scolded them. If Zhan Yedian is inferior and loses to Brother Yi, then it is also a matter of fate. Zhan Yedian glanced at the golden treasure chest floating in the distance. The attraction of a Dominator grade item made him completely forget about etiquette. In fact, it wasn't just him. Apart from Murong Tsai and Long Xiangyu, everyone else wanted to fight for it. In front of such a precious treasure, no one could remain calm. Relatively speaking, Night Sorrow was the calmest person present. He accepted the challenge and said, Since Zhan Yedian wants to fight, I will accompany you. However, I still want to remind you that swords have no eyes. Don't be blinded by greed. I have made up my mind. Brother Yi, don't try to persuade me anymore. Zhen Yedian's face revealed a cruel sneer. As he spoke, he used a secret technique unique to Ruler Tianya's manner, which increased his strength by several times. He threw a simple punch at Night Sorrow. This punch gave off a feeling of returning to one's natural state. This was a technique created by Ruler Tianai in the High Deity realm. It was called the Supreme Simplicity Divine Fist. The technique looked very ordinary, but the power it erupted with was very terrifying. Forbidden Reincarnation Fist. Even Yishan couldn't help but inwardly praise this move. He then used an ultimate technique to fight back. Night Sorrow, you are using a fist technique to fight against a technique created by Lord Ruler. Aren't you a bit too confident? Zhan Yedian felt that Night Sorrow was using a fist technique to fight back. Is that so? It just so happens that my fist technique was also created by myself. Then let's see if Ruler Tianya's fist technique is stronger, or if Night Sorrow's fist technique is stronger. Night Sorrow didn't feel any fear because of Ruler Tianai. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.